Chapter 1658. The five of them did not even dream of it. Aotian was a heavenly dragon, realm meta beast. If they had known that Aotian was a heavenly dragon, realm meta beast, they would not have dared to act rashly. As for being rejected by Li Zongjio, so be it. How could they lose their lives for nothing at this moment? After that, Aotian did not hesitate at all. In the blink of an eye, he rushed out and killed all five of them. The five of them turned into soul beings and were completely destroyed. At this moment, the fat man in the formation was sweating profusely. He did not expect these people to be so secretive. Luckily, he did not have the time to act. Originally, he wanted to cooperate with these people from the inside. It would be best if he could snatch the array formation. However, he did not expect Li Zongjio and the rest to be so powerful. Naturally, he did not dare to act rashly. He did not know if there were any top experts in this courtyard. Seeing the five of them die, tragically, the fat man became well-behaved. At least he could survive now. He had to save his own life first. Since these people were all dead, there was no hope left. The fat man could only stay in the formation obediently. Li Zongjio glanced at the fat man. The fat man laughed awkwardly. These people deserved it. Blind as a bat. The fat man cursed fiercely. It was all because of these people. Not only did they die, they almost killed him. Luckily, he was lucky. The speed of Aotian's attack was also very fast. He didn't give Fatty any chance to retaliate. Otherwise, Fatty would probably be lying on the ground by now. After Aotian killed the few powerful demons, he returned to the formation. With the 8 gates heavenly mystery formation. Needless to say, it had great recovery abilities. No matter how much energy was used, it could recover in a short time. It was the best place to fight. Many of them were not killed by the fiendish demons. It was because in the end their strength was almost depleted. Before they could recover, they were killed by the enemy. If their strength could not recover, there was nothing they could do. They would be killed by exhaustion. After all, there were too many of them. It could be said that they were endless. Boom! At this rate, I can hold on. Li Zongjio thought to himself. As long as there were no accidents, there would most likely be no problem. After all, his strength was there, and he had yet to make a move. The main reason was that the 2 formations in his hands complemented each other perfectly. This was also because Li Zongjio mainly relied on the strength of the master of the mountain residence. The strength and benefits of a formation master were shown very quickly. Li Zongjio did not expect a formation master to have such a great effect. The owner of this small mountain residence was also a powerful array master. This person's cultivation was even stronger than Li Zongjio's, so it shouldn't be a problem for him to survive. Now in the Red Soul City, in many places, spirit formations also appeared to fight against the other party. Li Zongjio's side was relaxed because there were people holding back the main attacks of these demons. And these people were the City Lord and the others. The City Lord of the Red Soul City was also an expert of the Heaven Realm. He led hundreds of experts of the Heaven Realm in the square of the city gate, using the statues as a formation. They were fighting head-on with the enemy. Beside the City Lord of the Red Soul City, there were nearly 100 experts of the Heaven Realm. They were all ranked high in the city. Now that this group of people was here, the attacks they suffered were naturally the fiercest. At the same time, there were also 10 array experts maintaining the formation. With the power of the formation in front of them, they were constantly replenishing the energy of the City Lord and the others. Li Zongjio was very familiar with one of them. This person was Ling Yu. Ling Yu was also an extremely top formation master in the city. It was no surprise that she appeared here. However, the enemy's attack this time seemed to be very fierce. Even the Great Array was shaking nonstop. The attack this time is too strong. A handsome man beside Ling Yu said. His eyebrows were also extremely heavy. When they saw such a situation, they all knew that things were not good. The demon army was more than 10 million. The City Lord of the Red Soul City one man and one sword, slaughtered the demons in all directions, cutting the bodies of those demons into pieces. Even the soul beings that fell on the ground were not collected by anyone. Even the city lord of the Red Soul City did not care about this little thing at all. The most important thing was to kill the enemy. Suddenly, 9 extremely terrifying auras descended from the sky. Even some of the surrounding fiendish demons were instantly suppressed by the 9 auras. Seeing this scene, the city lord of the Red Soul City's eyes flashed with a trace of cold light. These 9 auras were all existences of the 9th level of the heaven realm. The strength of each of them was comparable to his. If not for the luck of this city, the city lord of the Red Soul City would not be able to contend with these demons. Damn it! When Lingyu saw this scene, she immediately cursed in her heart, because the 9 demons at the peak of the heaven realm suddenly appeared on the other side. They directly brought an extremely strong threat to the city lord of the Red Soul City. Activate the strengthening formation. Ling Yu seemed to be the backbone of the many formation masters. After Ling Yu gave the order, the Tenere masters also quickly formed hand seals and flew about. Rays of golden light fell on the city lord of the Red Soul City. Suddenly, the city lord of the Red Soul City's body shone with golden light. At this moment, his combat strength was also greatly enhanced at this moment, and he quickly rushed forward. Boom! With a golden sword in his hand, he contended with the 9 demons at the peak of the heaven realm. Li Zongjio also felt this terrifying fluctuation. He immediately glanced over and saw that the shock waves from the battle alone were enough to kill many of the beasts and demons in the army of beasts and demons. They are really strong. Li Zongjio could also clearly feel the power of the fluctuation. It spread out for hundreds of miles, and one could clearly feel the existence of this power. Furthermore, this golden light formation also gave the latter a very strong boost in strength. But they still can't resist. Li Zongjiu looked into the distance. The 10th demon at the peak of the heaven realm had also been born. However, it fell in another part of the city, and at this moment it was also rushing toward the city gate. It was bound to join the battle and kill the city lord of the Red Soul City. Li Zongjiu saw it, and naturally the others also saw it. Ling Yu and the others' faces changed. Who would be able to stop this powerful fiendish demon? At this moment, Hong Long suddenly said in surprise, "Gang leader, the city lord has just issued a city defense mission. As long as you can stop this demon for 15 minutes, you will be rewarded with the position of city commander." Chapter 1659. The position of commander. To all the people who were struggling in the Scarlet Spirit City, this was a very exciting stimulant. Once one became a commander, at least in the city, he would have a lot of privileges. It was also a symbol of identity. Although he could not kill people in the city openly, he could exercise the law enforcement authority. Once he had the law enforcement authority, as long as he could convict you, he could directly lead the troops to arrest you. At the same time, the number of commander positions was very limited. The future city lord position was also born from these commanders. Once he became a commander, he would have the opportunity and qualifications to compete for such a position in the future. He could also receive a salary every month. After all, he was someone who had contributed to the city, so he must not be mistreated. Hong Long told Li Zongjiu about the benefits of becoming a commander. Li Zongjiu was obviously very interested in the position of the city lord. He must get this reward. It was such a good opportunity. Li Zongjiu would not let it go easily. However, it wasn't a simple task to complete this task. The opponent was a real existence of the 9th level of the celestial realm. Li Zongjiu had not even reached the real celestial realm. However, in the mission of the city lord, it only said that he had to delay the opponent's footsteps for 15 minutes. It was naturally very difficult to kill it. For the current Li Zongjiu, it was also impossible. But to delay it for 15 minutes, it was not impossible to succeed. At this moment, there were already other experts who rushed up dauntlessly. Among them There was no lack of celestial realm experts. However, the strength of these people was not worth mentioning in front of this giant snake demon at the peak of the celestial realm. They could not withstand a single blow. They did not stop the giant snake demon at all. From this, one could see the attack of this giant snake demon. Li Zhongjie was also observing the footsteps of the serpent demon. The content of the mission was to stall the serpent demon and prevent it from crossing the city center. Once it did, it would be equivalent to failing the mission. Many people were also waiting for an opportunity to make a move. Now, they did not make a move directly. At least, they wanted to see the situation clearly first. If they rushed out rashly, they would be like these people rushing forward to die. Li Zhongjie was not in a hurry, even though he wanted the position of commander as well. At the very least, he knew his limits. He wouldn't rush to the position without any hesitation. Most of the people who had to rush up just now did not want to go up directly, but were pushed up by others, or simply could not avoid it. Therefore, when they rushed up, they were easily torn apart by this serpent demon. Moreover, the serpent demon was surrounded by a poisonous gas. It was because of this poisonous gas that many people lost their fighting strength when they got close to it. The enemy was approaching the center of the city. At this moment, there was finally an expert who was worthy of being called out. 3 experts at the 6th level of the celestial realm joined forces to make a move. A powerful fiery attack landed on the serpent demon's head. However, the serpent demon's defense was too strong, and the 3 of them joined forces to defend against it. The 3 of them did not work at all. On the contrary, the giant snake demon was completely enraged. In an instant, its body rolled and formed a whirlwind, directly sucking the 3 people into its poisonous gas range. The 3 of them had wanted to keep a distance from Lin Fan. However, they had not expected that they would lose all resistance the moment Lin Fan unleashed this move. They were sucked into the poison circle and were instantly poisoned. Even the Yuan Qi defensive shield on their bodies and any inner armor were useless against the poison. The poisonous gas attacked their hearts. They were also swallowed by the giant snake demon again. The crunching sound of bones being crushed was also heard clearly by everyone. It had bitten people into pieces before they were even dead. It must be a very strange thing to have such a feeling. No one dared to step forward rashly. Even 3 experts at the 6th level of the celestial realm could not resist. If they were to step in, they would only end up losing their lives. Although the position of the commander was very tempting, they gave up on it after thinking about it. In the end, they gave up. 1,000 Moon Pavilion of the 1,000 Moon Sect. Naturally, the 1,000 Moon Sect Master also received the news. At the same time, she also wanted to step forward and give it a try. However, when she saw that the 3 experts at the 6th level of the celestial realm were easily killed, she temporarily gave up on the idea. If she rushed forward, only death would await her. Moreover, it would only bring a heavy blow to the 1,000 Moon Sect. It's impossible to stop it. We're doomed. Despair flashed across the 1,000 Moon Sect Master's eyes. If Crimson Soul City was lost, the foundation that she had built in Crimson Soul City would be destroyed in an instant. If the city was lost, would her previous efforts still exist? She was not an expert like the city lord. Although the city was destroyed, her strength was still there. She could find a place to rebuild at any time. Even if she went to other cities, such an expert would still be a distinguished guest. There would not be any change. Only the people below. It was unknown how many of them would survive. Ling Yu and the rest maintained the array. The city lord led the 10 commanders in the city to fight against the 9 top-notch demons. However, it was difficult to determine the victor in a short period of time. If the 10th demon joined the battle, it would be very dangerous. Damn it! Ling Yu cursed under her breath. She saw that the giant snake demon was about to cross the center of the city and approach them. At this moment, a figure descended from the sky. A terrifying chaotic energy hit the serpent demon's tail in an instant. Boom! equals the tail was instantly smashed off by Li Zongjiu. Immediately, a poisonous gas was released from the tail. Li Zongjiu had been tempered by the power of 5 poisons from spiritual master 5 poisons, so he had a certain level of immunity to the poison. In addition to the increase in his strength and the existence of the chaotic body, it helped Li Zongjiu resist the poisonous gas. That was why he was not poisoned to death. After smashing off the tail of the giant snake demon, Li Zongjiu stepped on Ao Tian's back and quickly soared into the sky. Ao Tian's strength was also in the celestial realm. Most importantly, Ao Tian knew how to fly. It was easier for him to fly than Li Zongjiu. Boom! Li Zongjiu urged Ao Tian to circle around the body of the serpent demon. After deliberately angering the serpent demon, Li Zongjiu charged in the direction that the serpent demon had come from. Since he wanted to delay for 15 minutes, he had to anger the giant snake demon and lure it away. Just the time it took to go back and forth was not difficult to hold on for 15 minutes. Chapter 1660. War was all about strategy. Just now, that group of people kept rushing up. Of course, the other party could easily take care of them. Would they even wait for them to eat? When Li Zongjiu's figure appeared, Ling Yu, who was in the distance, was shocked when she saw him. It's him. Ling Yu's eyes flashed with surprise. She did not expect Li Zongjiu to appear at this critical moment. Most importantly, this person was quite aloof. He even changed her array formation without her permission. When she wanted to lower herself to communicate with him, this guy he did not want to talk to her. This caused Ling Yu to feel extremely furious. Do you know him? The handsome man beside her frowned and asked when he heard the fluctuation in Ling Yu's tone. He's a tenant of mine, Ling Yu said faintly. She realized that she seemed to be a little agitated just now. No one should be so surprised. It was inevitable that people would be suspicious. Although Ling Yu said so, the handsome man obviously did not dare to believe that the two of them were so simple. There must be something fishy going on. After all, he knew Ling Yu's character very well. She would never be moved by anything. Just now, there was a rare fluctuation in her expression. The latter was obviously a little surprised. Therefore, the handsome man also remembered Li Zongjiu's appearance in his heart. At the same time, he cursed in his heart. He hoped that Li Zongjiu would be killed by this big snake demon. The Thousand Moon Sect Master, who was in the Thousand Moon Tower, also saw Li Zongjiu. It's him. He finally made a move. The Thousand Moon Sect Master was not clear about Li Zongjiu's strength. However, when Li Zongjiu made a move last time, his clean and neat swordsmanship had left a deep impression on the Thousand Moon Sect Master. At the same time, Li Zongjiu killed Commander Mi Shi directly some time ago. He knew that Li Zongjiu's strength was definitely not simple. When this task appeared, the Thousand Moon Sect Master was actually looking forward to Li Zongjiu making a move. Now he finally made a move. At the very least, there would be a good battle to watch. The Thousand Moon Pavilion itself was also supported by the array formation. In addition, most of the forces were attracted by the city lord and the city guards. Therefore, they were not in too much of a risk. Ao Tian circled around and brought Li Zongjiu with him as he flew into the distance. However, the serpent demon did not hesitate at all. In an instant, its broken tail grew out again. At the same time, it swung its tail violently, sending out a gust of energy that sent Li Zongjiu and Li Zongjiu flying. Ao Tian's huge body was sent flying. Li Zongjiu leaped off Proud Heaven's back and shot off into the distance. Boom! His figure instantly flew into the distance. Ao Tian had also completed his mission. After attracting a wave of attacks, he gave up. The serpent demon did not specifically target Ao Tian. Instead, he chased after Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu had just broken his tail and attracted a lot of hatred. No matter what, he could not let Li Zongjiu escape. Go! Li Zongjiu summoned the tiger-headed warlord. This fallen race warrior did not hesitate to descend from the sky. With 2 hammers in his hands, he smashed them down on the serpent demon's head. The serpent demon was very straightforward. It swallowed the tiger-headed warlord in one bite. The tiger tally in Li Zongjiu's hands also lost its effect at this moment. It can't even block a single move. Li Zongjiu was still expecting the tiger-headed warlord to be able to withstand a few moves. In the end, it was swallowed in an instant. Only when facing a serpent demon could one feel the terrifying power of the latter. It was not something that could be casually withstood, not to mention 15 minutes. Even if it was 15 seconds, no one could withstand it. Array formation, rise. When Li Zongjiu circled around the serpent demon, he secretly set up some supreme-grade primordial stones that contain the power of the array formation. As Li Zongjiu's strength was activated, suddenly these tens of thousands of supreme-grade primordial stones contained the power of lightning. They intertwined with each other and floated around the serpent demon. Immediately, Li Zongjiu activated the power of the array formation. Suddenly, a flash of lightning engulfed the serpent demon's body. Floating thunder array, one of the high-level arrays that Li Zongjiu mastered. It was this terrifying floating thunder array. It successfully delayed the serpent demon in front of him. However, the serpent demon itself was not harmed at all. It was actually unscathed. Li Zongjiu was shocked. Damn it, this guy's skin is so thick. Li Zongjiu cursed. In the next second, the serpent demon directly smashed the floating thunder array. At the same time, it quickly rushed out and pounced on Li Zongjiu. At this moment, Li Zongjiu also made the best use of his time and flew further away. Otherwise, the time that they had fought so hard for would be wasted. Speed up array. Li Zongjiu cast the speed up array on himself. His body instantly disappeared from the sky above the city with a boom. At the same time, his body split into several afterimages, causing the serpent demon to completely lose its target. It could not figure out which one was Li Zongjiu's real body. It could only use its terrifying power to crush Li Zongjiu's doppelganger in an instant. The latter exploded with a boom, and a huge wave of poisonous gas burst out from its body. This huge wave of poisonous gas destroyed half of the city in an instant at an incomparably fast speed. Most of the people who were in this poisonous gas were on the verge of death. They were directly engulfed by this terrifying poisonous gas. Their breaths disappeared. 2 of Li Zongjiu's doppelganger were also destroyed by the wave of poisonous gas. The remaining real body also quickly flew out of the city. Since it had already discovered Li Zongjiu's figure, the serpent demon immediately chased after him. Its speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it was already above Li Zongjiu. Even if Li Zongjiu cast the speed-up array and various arrays to delay it, it was useless. It still caught up with him. But at least Li Zongjiu had become the one who had delayed the serpent demon the longest. He's really something. When Lingyu saw that Li Zongjiu had actually succeeded in luring the giant snake demon away, a trace of surprise flashed across her eyes. Clearly, she was very surprised. The fact that Li Zongjiu could appear was already very courageous. If he could really do it, it would be even more impressive, even more terrifying. With such strength, she definitely had to nurture him well in the future. But she just hoped that Li Zongjiu could also protect himself, or at least escape. The situation was not so optimistic. The situation was naturally not optimistic. Li Zongjiu even regretted that he had stepped forward. His opponent's terrifying strength, when they fought, there was no way to resist at all. His opponent's defense was too strong, and his various moves could not break through. Besides the sneak attack at the beginning, he had used the chaotic energy to gain an advantage. If he were to attack now, he would definitely be sent flying as soon as he got close to the serpent. Now, to deal with the serpent, there was only one move left. Evil Soul Eye. Li Zongjiu activated his natal skill. This move Li Zongjio had only used it less than 5 times. In thousands of battles, Li Zongjio had only used this move a few times and had never failed. Chapter 1661. When the Evil Soul Eye appeared. Obviously, Li Zongjio also saw the big snake demon's body tremble slightly. However, the big snake demon was aggressive and its aura did not weaken at all. Li Zongjio was also very surprised. He was stunned for a moment. Could it be that his evil soul eye had lost its effect? If the evil soul eye had lost its effect, Li Zongjio would not have any other ideas. He would just run away quickly. However, Li Zongjio did not have time to run away. The big snake demon's body made a loud boom. It fell to the ground. Li Zongjio was also shocked and broke out in cold sweat. He thought that this guy was immune to his evil soul eye. Now it seemed that this guy would also be affected. Since it was affected, it was easy to deal with. Li Zongjio also heaved a sigh of relief. He saw the big snake demon's body fall to the ground. His figure also slowly descended and began to set up a formation around it. Li Zongjio did not know how long his formation could last. If it could not hold on for a long time, the consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, Li Zongjio also needed to hurry up. Since the big snake demon was affected by the evil soul eye, it was impossible for Li Zongjio to let the big snake demon be affected by the evil soul eye again. Firstly, the big snake demon would enter a defensive state. Secondly, it would also have some resistance. The success rate was very low. The rest of the people in the city saw this scene. When Qian Yu saw the big snake demon fall, he was completely stunned. Oh my God, he killed that demon. Even the Qian Yu sect leader himself could not believe it. Looking at the scene in front of him, the big snake demon's body fell to the ground with a loud boom. He did not know what method Li Zongjio used to defeat the big snake demon. It was really quite terrifying. Such strength was beyond everyone's expectations. Even when Ling Yu and the others saw this scene, they were very surprised. They did not expect it at all. Li Zongjio actually had the ability to defeat a demon at the peak of the celestial realm. However, they soon found that he did not defeat the demon. Instead, he used some method to make the demon faint temporarily. They also breathed a sigh of relief. At least, Li Zongjio was not such a terrifying existence. If he could kill a demon at the peak of the celestial realm, then Li Zongjio's strength would be very terrifying. At least, the Red Soul City Master would choose to recruit him. The position of commander, naturally the demon, but it is enough to delay it. A female commander beside the Red Soul City Master, who was dressed in cold silver armor, turned to look in the direction of Li Zongjio. When she found that Li Zongjio had defeated the big snake demon, she was very surprised. However, she was also a little unhappy with Li Zongjio. There was a trace of cold light in her eyes. This was a look that was directed specifically at Li Zongjio. She was Commander Hanyue. Li Zongjio had seized Hanyue Villa and destroyed the Sky Fiend Alliance that she had painstakingly built. She was the master behind the Sky Fiend Alliance. Commander Hanyue. Originally, Commander Hanyue was determined to kill Li Zongjio. However, when she saw that Li Zongjio had some ability, she was relieved. He also felt a little relieved for Li Zongjio. As long as Li Zongjio was willing to submit, there would be no problem and he could spare his life. This was also because the latter had some ability and was willing to step forward bravely at this time. So she gave the latter a chance. Even the Thousand Moon Sect Master could find out Li Zongjio's identity, let alone Commander Hanyue. Commander Hanyue only needed to say a word and she would be able to find out who was behind this. However, before she could deal with Li Zongjio, she encountered such a situation. If Li Zongjio was willing to help and protect Red Soul City, Commander Hanyue could consider giving Li Zongjio a lighter punishment. Otherwise, she would definitely teach Li Zongjio a lesson. In this Red Soul City, there was actually someone who dared to play such a conspiracy against her. Li Zongjio did not know that Commander Hanyue had decided to let him go for the time being. He did not care about these things now. Instead, he was using all his strength to set up the array. The latter would definitely not last for such a long period of time. Once the effects of the evil soul eye wore off, the giant snake, demonic demon, would awaken. One could imagine that once the latter awakened, its tyrannical aura would be even more intense. 3 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. Finally, the giant snake demon's aura was completely released at this moment. Boom! The giant snake demon in front of him instantly released its aura. It had finally woken up. Without the slightest hesitation. Under such circumstances, it opened its eyes. At the same time, a terrifying poisonous gas quickly condensed around its body. Boom! The color of the sky and earth changed. Everything turned into an extremely dense, pitch-black color. It directly covered Li Zongjio. When Hong Long and the others in the distance saw this, they were also stunned. Who would be able to survive the descent of this monstrous poison gas? In the eyes of others, Li Zongjio himself was definitely going to die. He would be directly poisoned to death by this poisonous gas. Even Lingyu, who was in the array. When she saw this scene, she was also stunned. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. Such a terrifying power was definitely not something that Li Zongjio could withstand. Could it be that Li Zongjio was so easily poisoned to death? She could not believe it. The handsome man beside Ling Yu was already clapping his hands and cheering in his heart. At the same time, he felt very happy for Li Zongjio's overestimation of his own abilities. With such strength, he still wanted to seek the position of commander. This was the result of overestimating one's own abilities. These demons would not give you a second chance. If you were killed, you would be killed. You would not have any chance to start over. Is he dead? The Thousand Moon Sect Master also did not dare to believe it. At least in her heart, she did not dare to believe it. In her opinion, Li Zongjio would not die so easily. There must be some other reason. Perhaps there would be a miracle. In the next moment, a ray of light appeared directly around the poisonous gas array. Then, an extremely terrifying suction force erupted. The giant snake demon also looked down at its body in shock. There was a trace of astonishment in its eyes. It was as if he was being dragged in by this force. Boom! Finally, the giant serpent demon and the surrounding poisonous gas disappeared in an instant. Li Zongjio also disappeared together with it. Boom! The surrounding spatial fluctuations made the experts in the city understand one after another. Li Zongjio actually set up a teleportation array. A teleportation array? At this moment, even the Red Soul City Master could not help but look in the direction of Li Zongjio. But now, both Li Zongjio and the Serpent Commander had disappeared without a trace. Obviously, Li Zongjio sacrificed himself to teleport the giant snake demon out. Chapter 1662. The moment the teleportation array appeared, it also made many people's hearts tremble violently. There was actually such a great person in this great world. To be able to have such a character was very rare. Now that they saw it, they were indeed a little shocked and surprised. However, Li Zongjio's departure also successfully relieved the pressure on the Red Soul City. This guy is really... Commander Han, you did not expect Li Zongjio to have such a backbone. He actually made such a huge sacrifice for the Red Soul City. It was truly admirable. In this way, Commander Han, you could not say that he would continue to argue with Li Zongjio about the Heavenly Fiend Alliance. The Heavenly Fiend Alliance had also been mismanaged. Therefore, there was no need for such a gang to exist. Compared to Li Zongjio's sacrifice today, this gang was nothing at all. If it was destroyed, so be it. Counterattack. The Red Soul City, Lord roared. Finally, at this moment, he found the other party's loophole and opportunity. In an instant, all the power was added to his body, helping the Red Soul City Lord's aura soar at this moment. At the same time, he charged towards the nine-peaked sky, realm demons. At this time, he was also accumulating his strength and observing the other party's weaknesses. At this moment, he had also grasped the other party's weaknesses. Coincidentally, the morale of his side had also risen greatly. If he did not counterattack now, when would he? In an instant, this terrifying power exploded. He charged towards these demons. The Red Soul City Lord was fighting. Li Zongjie was not idle either. First of all, Li Zongjie was not dead. Moreover, if Li Zongjie was not confident, he would not joke with his life. The teleportation array in Li Zongjie's hand was teleported to the place. It was not anywhere else. It was the bottle that he had bought previously to store the chaos chi. This thing was in his hand. Li Zongjie knew that this bottle was definitely a treasure. It was also a storage space. Although the chaos chi seemed like a small strand of energy, it was actually a huge amount of energy. One could clearly feel the terror of this power. For it to be able to withstand the power of the primal chaos chi, it was clear that the bottle itself was very powerful. Therefore, the bottle itself was also a powerful magic treasure. The moment he appeared in the bottle, Li Zongjie engaged in a battle with the latter. The hammer of chaos will appeared in his hand. He summoned the terrifying and violent primal chaos force, which exploded madly in the small bottle, although the other party was powerful. However, under Li Zongjie's primal chaos force, they were able to escape. Even then, he would have to admit defeat after getting hurt. Li Zongjie's primal chaos force had beaten them into submission. Immediately, Li Zongjie broke free and successfully escaped from the bottle. Then he sealed the bottle in his hand. This bottle was originally bought by Li Zongjie. Therefore, the laws of this great world automatically recognized Li Zongjie as the owner of this bottle. It was not surprising that Li Zongjie could control the bottle in his hand. In fact, when he used this method, Li Zongjie was not sure if it would work. In the bottle, he used his mental strength to carve a receiving array for the teleportation array. Then he used the teleportation array in the outside world to directly teleport the two of them in. Li Zongjie had never tried this method before. Therefore, it was also his first attempt. But now it seemed to have succeeded. When Li Zongjie's figure landed, he breathed a sigh of relief. He still appeared in the city. However, it was in a more secluded corner. Li Zongjie had placed this bottle in a more secluded place in advance. He would not be at ease if it was in anyone's hands. If the other party directly sealed the bottle, he would definitely not be able to open it and would be done for. Although they had successfully escaped from danger and temporarily sealed the serpent demon, they were still unable to do anything. Li Zongjie's current state was also very bad. His whole body was also surrounded by poisonous gas. Even if Li Zongjie could refine the poisonous gas, the sudden increase of poisonous gas just now was too much and too terrifying. The poison of the other party's realm was too strong. However, danger was still lurking in the city. There were already many demons wandering around. If they found Li Zongjie, they would definitely not show mercy and directly kill Li Zongjie. Wu Shuang, protect me! Li Zongjie was dizzy at this moment. If it took a little longer, he would not be able to hold on. Therefore, he quickly summoned Wu Shuang to protect him. After Li Zongjie's mental strength increased to the celestial realm, he could communicate with Wu Shuang. He was also able to communicate with Wu Shuang, but there was no way for him to reveal Wu Shuang for the time being. He still needed some time. The Wu Shuang sword immediately appeared beside Li Zongjie. It hovered in the air looking around. Occasionally, one or two little demons would pass by. Li Zongjie also restrained his aura to the minimum. He was also in a state of serious injury. The terrifying poison covered Li Zongjie's aura and formed a protective barrier. At this moment, Ao Tian and the others in the small mountain house were also a little anxious. However, at least Hong Long had not become the new gang leader. This meant that Li Zongjie was not dead. Since he was not dead, why did he not appear for the time being? Therefore, Ao Tian and the others were thinking of ways to find Li Zongjie. Perhaps now was the time when Li Zongjie was in danger. However, there were too many demons in the city. There was no way to leave. I'll go look for him, Aotian said. Back then, Aotian was indebted to Li Zongjio for saving his life. Therefore, Aotian sincerely treated Li Zongjio as his master. Now that Li Zongjio was in danger, he naturally could not sit back and do nothing. He had to step forward bravely. He had some connection with Li Zongjio. Therefore, he should be able to find him. Hearing that Aotian was going out to look for him, the fatty's eyes flashed. At the side, a cold glint flashed across the eyes of the fatty. Other than Aotian and Li Zongjio, none of the people present were a match for him. Therefore, he could reap some benefits. Just as the fatty was thinking about it, Aotian suddenly appeared in front of the fatty. Then he smashed the fatty's head with his palm. The fatty fell to the ground dead. He turned into a soul being. Even at the moment of his death, he did not understand why Aotian would act so decisively. Before Li Zongjio left, he had already instructed Aotian that if Aotian wanted to leave the formation, he had to kill the fatty. This was because the fatty was in cahoots with the others. Originally, he wanted to coordinate with them from the inside. However, he did not expect that. Aotian was so strong. Therefore, when Aotian killed the other 5, the fatty had already given up on the idea of coordinating with them from the inside. He might as well beat them at their own game and stay here for the time being. The others were not surprised that the fatty was killed. After all, they were all from the same sect. Only the fatty was not from the same sect. Therefore, it did not matter if he was killed. Aotian left the formation. At the same time, he attracted the attention of the demons in front of him. He was taken to another place. This temporarily brought some peace to the small mountain residents. But the war continued to break out. The terrifying commotion caused everyone to turn their heads. Chapter 1663. Aotian's figure was very risky in this city, searching for Li Zongjio's movements. However, the place where Li Zongjio appeared was also watched by 3 pairs of eyes. In the city, any place would become dangerous. These people would use all kinds of methods to hide their auras. In this way, they could at least ensure a high survival rate. They had even prepared some magic treasures in advance. He was able to completely restrain his aura. Not far from Li Zongjio, there were 3 people who disguised themselves as a wall. Behind the wall, there were actually 3 people who were closely watching Li Zongjio. That bottle just now seemed to contain that serpent demon. One of them couldn't help but exclaim. The serpent demon was a pinnacle-level demon after all. Pinnacle of the heaven realm. He could actually capture it alive. It was already very good to be able to escape, but they did not expect that Li Zongjio would capture one alive. Such a thing could happen, and after it happened, it was actually seen by the 3 of them. Such a demon can be sold for at least 200,000. 200,000 soul beans. There would definitely be a lot of people who were interested. No one had ever done such a business. Not only that, at least 1 million. That's something that has never appeared before. Another person said with certainty, looking at the millions of soul beings in front of them. What else was there to say? No matter how big the risk was, they had to get the soul beings first. Otherwise, what would they do if they ran away? However, he missed such a good opportunity. That kid seems to be seriously injured. He's recovering now, and only has that sword to protect him. The 3 people in front of them were all Heaven Realm experts. As a Sky Human Realm expert, he actually did not take the initiative to attack, but instead stayed where he was and made such a move, dragging out an ignoble existence. Of course, there was nothing to criticize. Everyone had their own way of living, not to mention the rest of the people were risking their lives to protect the Crimson Soul City. That was because they had a lot of benefits in the Crimson Soul City. If the city was destroyed, all their previous efforts would be in vain. That was why they were so desperate to protect the Red Soul City. But for people like them, what? They just needed to change a place and live a good life. Of course, if the Crimson Soul City was directly destroyed, these people who were idling in the city would very likely be killed by these demons. These demons did not come to the city for a vacation, but to kill. If the Crimson Soul City Master and the others were unable to kill the demons at the peak of the celestial realm, then these demons would search for other experts and kill them all. Therefore, they still hoped that the Red Soul City Master and the others could win. They were not worried about the Red Soul City Master's side. At this moment, they had to get the 1,000,000 soul beans in their hands first. Of course, they had to seize the time and find an opportunity to attack. Attack! The three of them immediately went on the offensive, finding an opening where the demons were not around. They rushed out and rushed towards the unparalleled sword in front of them. One of them entangled the unparalleled sword, while the other two quickly rushed towards Li Zhongjiu. Although Hu Wushuang had not revealed his true body, his will had already awakened. Previously, he was worried that there would be an accident. As expected, such a dangerous accident really did happen. Fortunately, Hu Wushuang had drawn a formation around Li Zhongjiu in advance. Just now, he seemed to be flying aimlessly, but in fact he was drawing a defensive formation around Li Zhongjiu. When he was attacked by the two, Li Zhongjiu's body automatically released a light screen around him, directly repelling the two of them. Hu Wushuang was also engaged in a fierce battle with the other person. The other party was still a heaven realm existence. Hu Wushuang used his strength to the limit. However, he could only barely resist the latter. I didn't expect this kid to be so vigilant. The two experts who were repelled also touched their noses. A few demons even appeared around them. At this time, if the demons dared to cause trouble, they would be killed directly. No one could stop the three brothers from getting rich. Break his formation. Although the arrangement of this formation was ingenious, it was not unbreakable in terms of strength and power. Therefore, as long as they used a bit of power, they could easily break this formation. It was just that at the beginning they were a little surprised. Originally, they should have been able to discover it. However, they did not expect such a situation to occur. The main reason was that they were too hasty, so they were repelled and repelled. Although Hu Wushuang was anxious, he was desperately blocked by the people in front of him. In addition, he did not want to show his true body, so his combat power was greatly reduced. At this critical moment, suddenly, a fierce venom attacked from behind the two of them. The two experts were instantly shocked. When they looked back, they quickly propped up a defensive shield with their origin energy. The other party's terrifying venom also rapidly smashed into the defensive barrier of the two people. Roar! Aotian had arrived. His figure landed, and with a swing of his tail, he sent the two of them flying. Obviously, Aotian's arrival had also surprised and shocked them. Aotian landed. Because it was Hu Wushuang who helped him previously, Aotian was somewhat familiar with Hu Wushuang's aura. As such, when Wushuang's aura burst out, he naturally discovered it. Therefore, he desperately chased after it. Finally, he found it. Just in time. Roar! Aotian roared at the people in front of him. He used his voice to intimidate the people in front of him. The people who were tangled with Wushuang's sword quickly retreated. The three of them stood side by side, looking at Aotian. A cold light flashed across their eyes. Where did this bastard come from? This was 1,000,000 soul beans. They could not let this money disappear just like that. No matter how difficult it was, they had to kill Aotian in front of them. Brothers, let's do it! The person in the middle said. When they attacked just now, they tried their best to suppress their aura. They did not completely burst out. This was because once their aura burst out, it would attract the surrounding demons and quickly attack. However, it seemed that it would be difficult to settle this matter peacefully. The item that was worth 1,000,000 soul beans was right in front of them, easily obtainable. How could they give up such an opportunity? Kill! As the voice faded, the aura of the three of them instantly rose. Like a gust of wind, it swept through the city. Chapter 1664. The aura of the three of them surged instantly. Aotian was taken aback. The three of them were all at the third level of the sky human realm. With such strength, they still wanted to launch a sneak attack. What were they doing behind his back just now? With such strength, the aura that leaked out just now was extremely weak. The other party unleashed such a strong aura. Clearly, they were not prepared to continue the stalemate. They had to kill Aotian and the rest. Boom! The three of them combined their strength. Instantly, the terrifying energy blasted onto Aotian's body. Aotian immediately unleashed all the scales on his body to resist the terrifying aura of the other party. At the same time, a ball of terrifying venom burst out from Aotian's body. Instantly, the terrifying venom swept towards the three of them. It rushed towards the three of them. Although the venom was strong, its speed was extremely slow. The three of them dodged it easily. Boom! A long flaming whip landed on Aotian's body and tied him up. The other person was quick as well. He swung his whip violently. A terrifying force blasted onto Aotian's body. What appeared in his hand was actually a thorny whip made of yuan power. It tied Aotian up directly. Aotian was in extreme pain. Moreover, this force was extremely strong and wanted to tear him apart. At this moment, the unparalleled sword was attacking wildly. However, the other party was too strong and could not break through at all. Scram! One of them punched the unparalleled sword and sent it flying to the ground. Instantly, the unparalleled sword fell to the ground. It smashed into the ground. It was severely injured. Fortunately, the unparalleled sword had been tempered before. With the support of the heart of the blue sea, he didn't suffer any serious injuries. However, Aotian could not hold on any longer. He was sent flying by the person who was good at fist techniques. He was severely injured. Hurry up and do it. The surrounding demons are coming. One of them said. There were even some demons that came close and were killed on the ground. Hence, the two of them joined forces to break the formation. Aotian struggled for a while but was unable to get up. In fact, some of the demons had already rushed up and bit Aotian. However, after biting Aotian, this demon died instantly. Aotian was a poison dragon, and the blood on his body was highly toxic. As long as these demons came into contact with it, they would die instantly. This was not surprising at all. Peerless Sword used the last of his strength and quickly rushed out. After the opponent's punch broke the defensive array formation, the unparalleled sword blocked in front of Li Zhongjie. He was prepared to use his life to block this move for Li Zhongjie. Is there something wrong with this sword? Since you want to die so much, then die. His opponent was also forced into a corner by unparalleled sword's tenacious willpower and perseverance. Immediately, his fist came crashing down. He was determined to shatter the unparalleled sword. The unparalleled sword released all of its power, enveloping Li Zhongjie. It had no intention of leaving. The opponent's strength was approaching, pushing the unparalleled sword to its limit. Just as the unparalleled sword was about to collapse, a warm force wrapped around the unparalleled sword. At the same time, a familiar hand grabbed the hilt in front of him. You've worked hard. Li Zhongjie grabbed the unparalleled sword. At the same time, a surge of origin energy flowed into it, helping the unparalleled sword to heal its injuries. The unparalleled sword was on the verge of shattering under the pressure of such a terrifying force. In addition, it was also severely injured just now. Although Huo Wushuang was a sword spirit, he was also severely injured. Now that Li Zhongjie had poured in his strength, Huo Wushuang could finally heave a sigh of relief. He gently woke him up. Huo Wushuang finally managed to hold on until Li Zhongjie woke up. Immediately, he fell into a deep sleep, unable to hold on any longer. Seeing that Li Zhongjie had woken up, they were relieved. As long as Li Zhongjie woke up, all of them were basically dead. They would no longer be a match for Li Zhongjie. Moreover, according to Li Zhongjie's character, He would definitely not let these people off easily. Indefinite hoop. Li Zongjio waved his hand casually. The indefinite hoop transformed into the green ghost sword and instantly killed the demon on Ao Tian's body. At the same time, a surge of origin energy flowed into Ao Tian's body, helping him heal his injuries. Master. Seeing that Li Zongjio had woken up, Ao Tian was overjoyed. As long as Li Zongjio was still alive. If that was the case, then the injuries he had suffered before were nothing at all. The three of them did not expect Li Zongjio to be able to recover first under such extreme circumstances. Could it be that he was just bluffing? In reality, he had not even recovered from his injuries. How could he recover from such serious injuries so quickly? He must be pretending to be calm here. So what if you have recovered? Hand over the item and we can spare your life. Among the three of them, the one who was good at fist techniques said slowly. There was an undeniable power in his tone. Such a commanding tone made Li Zongjio smile. In the past, many people had used a superior tone to talk to him. However, the outcome of these people was usually the same. Then you guys are in a worse situation. Because you have no choice, only death awaits you. Li Zongjio said calmly. His gaze was gentle, and he did not look like a person who was good at killing. After absorbing the venom of the giant snake demon, Li Zongjio could actually extract the energy from the venom into extremely pure energy. Then, Li Zongjio's origin energy cultivation level officially broke through. There was no surprise. Li Zongjio directly stepped into the celestial realm, although the process was a little dangerous and risky. But for Li Zongjio, as long as he could make it through, nothing was impossible. This little bit of pain and threat was nothing to him. So you have broken through. No wonder you are so arrogant. But your strength is not enough to support your arrogance. The other party snorted. Then, the three of them looked at each other. The three of them joined forces and burst out this shocking attack. A terrifying flaming fist smashed toward Li Zongjio. All the demons within 100 meters were burned to ashes by this scorching power. Facing such a threatening and terrifying move, Li Zongjio immediately raised his fist. The chaotic power condensed in his hand. All of a sudden, he threw out a punch. Boom! The power of the two sides collided. Li Zongjio's chaotic power tore the other party's power into pieces in an instant. At the same time, Li Zongjio's figure quickly swept over. The moment he got close, the chaotic hammer oval appeared in his hand. When they saw that Li Zongjio dared to break into the encirclement of the three of them, they were shocked by Li Zongjio's bold behavior. Immediately, Li Zongjio also quickly raised the hammer in his hand and smashed it toward these people. Boom! One of them was directly smashed in the head by Li Zongjio. He turned into a soul being on the spot. What? Seeing this, the other person was shocked. However, Li Zongjio's chaotic hammer smashed over again, not giving the other person too much time and chance to hesitate. In an instant, there was a loud boom. Another person was smashed. When the last person saw that his two brothers were dead, it was obvious that he couldn't believe it. They were actually killed in an instant. What kind of strength did Li Zongjio have? Wasn't this guy just at the innate realm? How could he have such terrifying combat power? He was completely shocked and astonished by this. Then he quickly wanted to escape. He turned around and left. What million? Now that he was about to lose his life, why would he care about these soul beings? He was about to turn into a soul being. It was definitely not a coincidence that he was able to kill two of his companions. Then, if Li Zongjio wanted to kill him, it would be a piece of cake. Therefore, he quickly escaped. You're too slow. Li Zongjio instantly appeared in front of the other person. He raised his hand. Suddenly, a wave of chaotic energy formed around them, although it did not form a sealed space. However, the surrounding primal chaos energy seemed to have formed a terrifying bridge that sealed the ladder within, not daring to move at all. Destroy! Li Zongjio clenched his fist. Immediately, the chaotic energy turned into a terrifying force, completely strangling the other person. Boom! Another 23 soul beans fell into Li Zongjiu's hand. Chapter 1665. After taking care of the 3 sky human realm experts, Li Zongjiu came in front of Ao Tian again. If not for Ao Tian and Wu Shuang, would they have risked their lives? If they had really protected him, he might have been killed by these people already. There was a bit of luck involved. Thinking about it, it was very dangerous. However, Li Zongjiu's luck had always been good. Even in such a dangerous environment, he was still able to come back from death's door. He also cleaned up the surrounding fiendish demons. He brought Ao Tian back to the mountain residence. That kid is still alive. The man beside Ling Yu was shocked when he saw Li Zongjiu flying in the sky. Ling Yu also looked over quickly. It was really Li Zongjiu. He's still alive. Ling Yu's heavy heart was actually bursting with joy at this moment. This made Ling Yu extremely happy. She did not expect Li Zongjiu to be able to survive in such an environment. Where's that huge snake demon? The handsome man also looked around, but he didn't find any trace of the giant snake demon. He was immediately shocked. No matter where Li Zongjiu had sent the huge snake demon to, with the strength and speed of the huge snake demon, it would definitely be able to return quickly. However, so much time had passed. Li Zongjiu himself had returned, but he did not see any trace of the huge snake demon. Could it be that Li Zongjiu had already killed the huge snake demon? If that was the case, it would be too shocking. They did not dare to believe it. Li Zongjiu had such an ability? In the entire Crimson Spirit City, the only person who could kill such a demon was the city governor. No one else had such strength. Hence, this was indeed a little exaggerated. Commander Han Yu and the others also saw Li Zongjiu flying over the city. Undamaged. Although the clothes on his body were somewhat tattered, his aura was still intact. He even gave off a feeling that he was stronger than before. This meant that not only was Li Zongjiu unscathed, but he had also managed to escape from such a dangerous situation and obtained a great opportunity. This guy, he really knows how to create miracles. Commander Han Yue had been feeling sorry for Li Zongjiu and had given up on pursuing Li Zongjiu's previous actions and the things he had done to her Heavenly Fiend Alliance. Now that they saw Li Zongjiu appear again unscathed, they didn't know what to do with Li Zongjiu. It was really a headache. Moreover, Li Zongjiu had taken the serpent demon to some unknown place. It seemed that Li Zongjiu had already dealt with it. Otherwise, it would have rejoined the battlefield long ago. The number of demons descending from the sky had gradually decreased. Obviously, these demons weren't endless. It was mainly because the Red Soul City Governor and the others had blocked most of the attacks. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to withstand it. Li Zongjiu returned to the mountain residence. After placing Ao Tian on the ground, he began to reinforce the surrounding array. This array was quite useful. Half of the crisis had passed. Next, they just had to wait for the governor to kill these top-notch demons one by one, although there were the 10 commanders supporting him from behind. However, the Red Soul City Lord was the only one who could truly withstand the attacks of these peak sky human realm demons. Li Zongjiu also carefully observed his movements. Every move he made was filled with the deterrence of heaven and earth. The 9 peak fiendish demons were completely suppressed, and they were unable to show their faces. Moreover, as long as one of them was killed, the rest wouldn't be a problem. It wouldn't be too difficult to clean up this wave of demons. These demons, this should be the only wave, right? Li Zongjiu asked. Hong Long also shook his head. I'm not sure. This kind of situation where demons attack the city rarely happens. Moreover, it's hard to predict what will happen. Li Zongjiu nodded slightly. Before it's really over, everyone can't let down their guard. Li Zongjiu said immediately. The members of the Qin gang also agreed. After witnessing Li Zongjiu's true strength, not a single one of the Green Gang members wasn't filled with admiration for their gang leader. And apart from the governor, who else could deal with these peak sky demons? Only their gang leader. And this person's task was completed. Obviously, Li Zongjiu would soon be conferred the position and title of commander. This kind of honor wasn't something that just anyone could have. The Qin gang would definitely become famous because of this. Li Zongjiu didn't think too much about the consequences. He just felt the power of his breakthrough, looking at the sky full of demons outside. If he didn't go out and train, it would be a waste. You guys stay here and guard. If there's danger, release the signal. I'll go out and clean up the wave. Why were there so many demons in the sky? To Li Zongjiu, they were walking soul beings. A single demon would have at least 10 soul beings or more. Even if he killed thousands of them, he would still earn tens of thousands of soul beings. What could he do to earn such a high amount of soul beings? At this moment, Li Zongjiu's strength had increased to such a level. These demons couldn't threaten Li Zongjiu at all. Such a good opportunity. He had to go out and harvest a wave of demons. Li Zongjiu rushed out. He used the indefinite ring to imitate the green ghost fang sword. He took the lead to clean up the demons around the small mountain residence. These demons couldn't block Li Zongjiu's sword. Previously, when he went to complete the demon group mission, those powerful demons gave Li Zongjiu a lot of trouble. At that time, it would have taken a lot of effort to kill these demons. But now, Li Zongjiu basically killed one with a sword. His left hand was also constantly collecting these soul beings. In the blink of an eye, he had already collected hundreds of soul beings. Li Zongjiu himself was even more so. He directly condensed the power of chaos on his body and then killed the demons in front of him. He cleared the surroundings of the small mountain residence. Li Zongjiu also tried to find a bigger group of demons. Hong Long and the others were stunned by Li Zongjiu's actions. The others were also thinking that they had to hide in a secluded place, or even a place that was easy to defend and hard to attack. They couldn't let these demons attack so easily. Then they just had to attack and defend well. However, Li Zongjiu took the initiative to attack. This attack surprised everyone. There was actually someone who was so daring. Under such circumstances, he purposely rushed into the demon's lair and harvested the lives of these demons, one by one. Just as Li Zongjiu was in the mood to kill, suddenly he felt that there was a big commotion in front of him. He looked up and saw a group of demons besieging a tall building. These demons kept stacking on top of each other. Their numbers were terrifying, and they would be devoured by these demons. The building in front of him was sturdy. It was supported by a formation. On top of this building, Li Zongjiu saw a familiar figure. This person was the Thousand Moon sect master that he saw during the mission. On top of the Thousand Moon Tower, the Thousand Moon sect master was also frowning. This was because the demons below were about to break through the formation of the Thousand Moon Tower. If this continued, the building would collapse. Just as Qianyu was about to give the order to abandon the building and flee to another safe place, who would have thought that a whirlwind would appear under the building and directly kill all the demons that had gathered under the building? Bang! 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 As the figure made his move, the fiendish demons were also attracted to him. They gave up on attacking the building and quickly attacked the figure. Boom! A large number of demons rushed toward Li Zongjiu. Furthermore, the strength of these demons was not weak either. Qianyu and the others in the Thousand Moon Tower were using the same method to kill these demons. The sudden appearance of a person had attracted the attention of these demons and reduced the pressure on the Thousand Moon Tower. It's him. Qianyu saw Li Zongjiu once again. She did not even think that Li Zongjiu could be resurrected. Moreover, he had appeared under the Thousand Moon Tower to help them solve their crisis. Thousands of demons rushed toward Li Zongjiu at the same time. Sword of Nirvana! Li Zongjio circulated his chaotic energy and swept out his sword. In an instant, the thousands of demons were completely annihilated with a loud boom. All of them turned into soul beings and fell into Li Zongjio's hand. Qian Yu looked at this scene with disbelief in her eyes. It was a little too exaggerated. Li Zongjio's attack had completely solved the problem of the Thousand Moon Tower. Qian Yu raised his head and looked at the sky above the Thousand Moon Tower. The Thousand Moon Sect Master and the group of girls were also stunned by Li Zongjio's coolness. Even Qian Yu's mind could not help but be filled with thoughts. At this moment, she was a little anxious. Facing Li Zongjio's eyes, Qian Yu felt a sense of loss. Why did he save her time and time again and solve her crisis? Li Zongjio naturally would not answer her question. Instead, he continued to rush in other directions. He killed all the demons in front of him. Chapter 1666. Naturally, Li Zongjio did not have any interest in the Thousand Moon Sect Master. He just happened to see a wave of people here and wanted to clean it up. The move just now also earned Li Zongjio a lot of soul beans. After that, Li Zongjio continued to chase after the other demons. In the entire Red Soul City, only Li Zongjio could be so unscrupulous as to chase after demons. These demons were obviously here to attack the city, but now they were being chased by Li Zongjio. The Crimson Soul City governor's side had also begun to kill all the peak heavenly human realm demons in front of them. In this battle, they lost a lot of experts, but at least they managed to protect the Red Soul City. When the sun shone brightly, the demons gradually retreated. Some directly dug holes on the spot. They drilled into the ground and disappeared. Li Zongjio's battle also directly collected close to 200,000 soul beings. He killed close to 2,000 demons. The strength of the Heaven Realm also gave Li Zongjio a strong ability to protect himself. In addition, there was the chaotic energy in his body. Therefore, Li Zongjio's strength was also stronger and more terrifying. In this city, he also had the ability to protect himself. This made Li Zongjio breathe a sigh of relief. With the strength of the Heaven Realm, he should be able to deal with the incarnation of the limitless true Lord when he returned. This kind of harmful thing also consumed a lot of Li Zongjio's energy. It even made Li Zongjio have to come to such a place to increase his strength and defeat the other party. Of course, besides this, Li Zongjio also had another goal. That was to learn this powerful curse technique. After many battles, Li Zongjio also realized that the cultivation of this curse technique was actually very basic. It was even a very high-end combat skill. Therefore, it was impossible for such an ability to appear in the Xingu continent. Therefore, in the Great World, one also needed to learn curse techniques. The various forces in the macro world were also very magnificent and powerful. If he could bring these forces back, it would at least be a good thing for Li Zongjio. Maybe one day, Qi Yanran would also come to this macro world and encounter these things. Li Zongjio wanted to pave the way for Qi Yanran and the others. The Qin gang was also a starting point. Since there was such a beginning, he naturally couldn't let it go to waste. Li Zongjio returned to the mountain residence. The battle came to an end. The entire Crimson Soul main city was practically crippled by half. Just as Li Zongjio was feeling curious and thought that it would take a lot of time and energy to restore such a dilapidated city, Li Zongjio thought to himself. However, when the sunlight shone down, everything in front of him was restored. All the broken houses, streets, buildings, and plants were gradually restored under the sunlight, looking brand new. It gave people a feeling that it had never been damaged. It was really surprising and shocking. The power of the macro world is really amazing. Li Zongjio looked at the restored Crimson Soul main city. The only difference was that the dead people couldn't be resurrected. The number of people who died in such a huge battle was uncountable. However, it didn't matter. Soon, there would be a lot of people coming from the rebirth forest. Countless people yearned to come to this end of the pursuit of power. Li Zongjio had displayed an extremely terrifying strength in this battle, causing the latter's name to spread far and wide. On the contrary, Li Zongjio didn't care about this. He was only worried that the bottle in his hand that imprisoned the serpent demon should be able to withstand it. He didn't want it to suddenly explode at this time and bring new trouble to Li Zongjio. Commander Hanyue came specially with the city lord's warrant. "You are Li Zongjio." Commander Hanyue's tone was unfriendly because the guy in front of her almost cheated her feelings. She thought that this guy had died heroically for the Crimson Soul Main City. She didn't expect this guy to come back to life. "I am." Even before this, Li Zongjio wouldn't be afraid of these commanders in the city. If they wanted to play a life and death battle, he would have the chance to play with them. Moreover, Li Zongjio had already broken through to the sky human realm. With his current strength, there was nothing to be afraid of facing these commanders. "This is your commander's warrant. From now on, you are a commander of my Crimson Soul Main City. Congratulations." Commander Hanyue was not too fierce to Li Zongjio. At the very least, it was because of Li Zongjio's intervention that the city was saved from trouble. Otherwise, they would be in great danger right now. It was very likely that they would be devoured by these demons. Therefore, she indeed had to thank Li Zongjio. As for the matter of Hanyue Villa and Heavenly Fiend Alliance, she didn't care about Li Zongjio. "Seeing that you have contributed so much to the Crimson Soul Main City, my Hanyue Villa, we will not care about the matter with Heavenly Fiend Alliance for the time being," Hanyue said. Li Zongjio finally understood that the person in front of him was the famous Commander Hanyue. Even these days, Li Zongjio had been thinking about how to avoid this Commander Hanyue. Although he wasn't afraid, he didn't want to have a conflict with the latter. Now that they met, he didn't even notice. "So you are Commander Hanyue. I've heard a lot about you," Li Zongjio said. Not caring about it was a good thing. Coincidentally, he had accumulated a lot of soul beans. He could walk around and buy a place to make it his gang's base. Commander Hanyue rolled her eyes at Li Zongjio. Fortunately, he had helped. Otherwise, she wouldn't have let Li Zongjio off so easily. In the end, it was not good to argue with this guy now. It was a troublesome matter. Just this time, she had lost a lot. It was all because of Li Zongjio. Commander Hanyue didn't stay for long and left immediately. After all, there were other missions in the city. If you have thought of your name, just carve it on this token. It will be formed naturally. I'll leave first. If there's anything you don't understand, come to Hanyue Palace to ask me." After Commander Hanyu finished speaking, she also leaped up and left. This was also the first time that the members of the Qing gang had seen the legendary Commander Hanyu up close. They had already heard of her reputation, but they had never expected that they would be able to see her up close this time. It was a feast for the eyes. They had never had such an honor in their lives. Furthermore, Commander Hanyue seemed to take care of their gang leader. She even took the initiative to ask Li Zongjio to go to Hanyue Palace to find her. What kind of person could have such an honor? Naturally, they were all shocked and surprised. They all waited here to watch a good show. Only his gang leader could have such charisma. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't be able to do it. Li Zongjio thought about his own name. There was no need to think about it. Without hesitation, he engraved the 2 words "Evil Lord" on the token. When Li Zongjio first arrived, he was relatively low-key, so he did not call himself the Evil Lord. But now Li Zongjio's strength had almost increased, and he even had a lot of subordinates under him. He had also killed quite a number of powerful enemies. Obviously, there wasn't any problem or pressure to call himself Evil Lord. If anyone had any objections, Li Zongjio would come and have a talk with them. From then on, the name Evil Lord was established in the Crimson Soul City. Lingyu and the other array masters also bid farewell to each other after settling some matters. As for Lingyu, she was very curious about how Li Zongjio would deal with this big snake demon. Immediately, they all returned to their small mountain residence. seeing Lingy return to her small mountain residence so eagerly. When the handsome man at the side saw this, he quickly had a very big objection to Li Zongjiu. "Good boy, how dare you snatch my woman? I won't let you off so easily." There was a trace of viciousness in the handsome man's eyes. After saying this, his figure flashed, and he left the Crimson Soul City. Ling Yu was the woman he had his eyes on. What right did this mere Li Zongjiu have to snatch his woman? Therefore, Li Zongjiu must be killed. Chapter 16:67. He Shan also thanked Yi Cheng profusely. He didn't even know how to thank Yi Cheng. Yi Cheng didn't ask for the latter's gratitude. As long as this matter was settled, it was enough. Everything else was easy to deal with. After the meal, Yi Cheng and the others didn't delay and returned to Falling Autumn Mountain. In a few days after Spring Wind Academy was fully purchased, they would arrange for Shin Fuling to enter. As for the rest of the time, Yi Cheng needed to focus on his cultivation. However, the outside world was also in an uproar because Yi Cheng used the Evergreen Commander's seal this time. Many people started to guess the Yi family's next move. The Yi family rarely displayed their strength in the imperial capital. Although this was a small demonstration, it also served as a huge reminder to the various factions in the city. He wanted to remind these people how powerful the elite troops of the Yi clan were. What exactly was the difference between him and the top? This made it very clear, very clear. However, the Yi family was also targeting Yi Cheng's actions today. They even held a discussion at the Elders' Council. They thought that Yi Cheng would at least receive some complaints about Yi Cheng, but there was no response. There was no news at all. Yi Cheng directly brought people to tear down the Pang family. The people in the city clapped and cheered. The name of Yi Cheng, the young master of the Yi family, gradually spread among the people in the imperial capital. They seemed to be happy and excited that such a bully was removed. The Pang family did such a thing. Obviously, their reputation was well known. However, they had a backer and an umbrella above them. No one dared to make a move. Today, they finally met someone who dared to make a move and directly destroyed the Pang family. When they found out that it was the young master of the Yi family who did it, they were even more excited. Even the Yi family's reputation and prestige rose again. Most importantly, Yi Cheng's action of leading the troops didn't even receive any complaints or accountability from any department. Firstly, they didn't dare. Secondly, Pei Yongji had taken care of all the relationships in this matter. He wouldn't let anyone trace it back to Yi Cheng. If Yi Cheng was disturbed, he would definitely arrest Pei Yongji. Therefore, Pei Yongji handled this matter well. The first elder wanted to nominate Yi Cheng for criticism. In the end, he couldn't find anything and could only give up. Furthermore, the Evergreen Commander's tally was in Yi Cheng's possession. With this, it would not be easy for the first elder to punish Yi Cheng. Yi Cheng now knew that the Evergreen Commander's seal was in Yi Cheng's hands. Yi Cheng felt a heavy blow. He even felt his vision turning dark. There was no more chance for him to defeat Yi Cheng again. Yi Cheng had already become an insurmountable mountain. The talents from the other factions in the city also had their own analysis of Yi Cheng. The Yi family's young master's way of doing things was so different from the Yi family itself. Yi Cheng's personality seemed to be more flamboyant. He did things with a high profile and kept a low profile. It was rare to hear of Yi Cheng doing anything big. However, they did not dare underestimate this Yi Cheng, who had been hiding his true strength all this while. Just as Yi Cheng led his troops to destroy the tyrannical Pang family, there was another piece of news. Yi Cheng spent 8 billion golden phoenix coins and became the owner of Spring Wind Academy. Even though he didn't buy the whole academy, the principal wouldn't sell the whole thing. After all, it was his own blood, sweat, and tears. Naturally, he would not let the academy fall into the hands of others. However, Yi Cheng's investment made him the biggest shareholder of Spring Breeze Academy in an instant. On the surface, the principal was still the principal, but if there were any changes, they would have to go through Yi Cheng first. He spent 8 billion. Chu Han did not expect such a thing to happen in her own hands. Just the amount of banknotes that were sent out today was already an astronomical figure. There were more than a dozen accountants who were counting nonstop. After that, all kinds of documents were sent to Yi Cheng for his signature. Chu Han had originally conducted an investigation on Spring Breeze Academy. Although the dean of Spring Breeze Academy was very ambitious, the latter didn't have much of a network in the imperial capital. It was already very difficult for him to manage this academy. Now, if Spring Breeze Academy had not persisted until now and was about to run out of oil, no one would have interfered. Yi Cheng signed the documents and paid the money, becoming the owner of Spring Breeze Academy. He immediately asked Shen Chongyang to bring Shen Fuling to enroll. Shen Chongyang was simply stunned. He never thought that there could be such a thing. However, Shen Chongyang was also amazed at his luck to meet Yi Cheng. At least when Yi Cheng needed help, he had provided some help and built a good relationship with him. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to befriend Yi Cheng. The principal of Spring Breeze Academy was named Qin Feng. Back in the imperial capital, he was definitely an influential figure. He became famous at a young age and traveled for many years to gain experience. He had all kinds of extinct skills, but at the same time he was ambitious. Therefore, he founded Spring Breeze Academy to cultivate these talents in the future. In the future, he would be able to have students all over the world. However, once he took charge of the academy, it led to a lack of energy in all aspects. Although he accepted Yi Cheng's investment and became the owner of Spring Breeze Academy, he did not allow Yi Cheng to change the rules and regulations of Spring Breeze Academy at will. He could not let Spring Breeze Academy become Yi Cheng's backyard. He absolutely had to prevent such a thing from happening. Qin Feng also purposely contacted Yi Cheng. When he saw Yi Cheng, he was relieved. Qin Feng was more than 50 years old and had seen countless people. When he saw Yi Cheng for the first time, he knew that Yi Cheng was definitely not simple. He also knew that the latter was the young master of the Yi family. He was also a little surprised. Didn't they say that the Yi family was very poor? How could Yi Cheng take out so much money at once? It was a total of 8 billion golden phoenix coins, which really shocked him. In the future, Mr. Yi Cheng will also be the honorary president of our academy. Thank you for your help. In the capital, all kinds of academies were blooming. Wanting to recruit some very good seedlings was also quite difficult. However, there was no discrimination in education. Currently, Spring Breeze Academy had more than 600 disciples. If they recruited another 100 this year, the first few batches of disciples should have some achievements. There were a few talents in front of them. This made Qin Feng feel quite gratified. Dean Qin, you're too serious. If the academy needs anything in the future, just come to me. Yi Cheng was not the stupid son of a landlord. Although he was not interested in money, he would not waste it like this. In fact, some of the famous schools in the city had some powerful people behind them, so it was almost impossible to get a hold of them. And Spring Breeze Academy, a privately founded academy, was in a crack. Plus, Spring Breeze Academy was under a lot of pressure. So, Yi Cheng made a move at the right time. As for Shen Fuling's admission, it could only be said to be a coincidence. But in fact, Shen Fuling did not have many choices. Some of the real nobles in the capital and royal academies were difficult to get into. Even if she got in, the learning atmosphere would not be what one imagined. Only Spring Breeze Academy was considered to be outstanding among the ordinary people. However, it was precisely because it was outstanding that it was naturally suppressed by some people. That was why such a situation occurred. It was a bargain for Yi Cheng. A mere 8 billion golden phoenix coins was enough to control an academy with limitless potential? That would be a very profitable deal. With Mr. Ye's words, I am relieved. Qin Feng's impression of Yi Cheng was not bad. After all, Yi Cheng was different from those young masters who only knew how to eat, drink, and play. Recently, He had heard some of Yi Cheng's abilities. So, Qin Feng was quite relieved. But as for asking Yi Cheng to help, it was not necessary. After a simple chat, Qin Feng also hurriedly bid farewell. Obviously, Qin Feng had his own things to do. He did not have much time to chat with Yi Cheng. Chu Han sent Qin Feng away. She was also quite puzzled about Yi Cheng's plan for Spring Breeze Academy. Yi Cheng, the top 5 academies in the city have already attacked Spring Breeze Academy. If we interfere with Spring Breeze Academy, it is almost equivalent to going against the top 5 academies. Chu Han said worriedly. It was hard to say who was behind the top 5 academies. They could always find someone who was stronger and had a higher status to deal with you. A mere Spring Breeze Academy can make the top 5 academies afraid. Tell me, how capable do you think such an academy is? That one sentence from Yi Cheng made Chu Han understand everything. When he put it that way, it did make sense. For the same thing, a normal person might only be able to see the bad side of the matter. But those who had their own ideas could see the good side, the unusual side. It was also this kind of eyesight that made them stand out from the rest. After seeing it, they had to have greater courage to do such a thing directly instead of just thinking about it on the spot. Only after they had truly put in action would they have the courage to do such a thing. Only by doing so could they accomplish such a thing. Chu Han thought about it carefully. It was indeed the case. If Spring Breeze Academy was not that capable, in the hearts of the people, it would not have such a high status. At the same time, it would not allow the top academies to join forces to suppress Spring Breeze Academy. Other people did not dare to support Spring Breeze Academy, but Yi Cheng dared. The current Yi Cheng had almost nothing to be afraid of. In the city, there was nothing he did not dare to do. Yi family. What? Yi Cheng bought Spring Breeze Academy. When the Yi family's first elder heard the news, he jumped up from his chair. He almost smashed the desk in front of him. He glared at the person who came to report. Doesn't he know that Spring Breeze Academy's president, Qin Feng, offended King Xiang? Chapter 1668. King Xiang. Among the rankings of these princes, he was definitely the most ferocious one. At the same time, he was also very rude to the Yi family because before this, King Xiang had also been in charge of the north. However, the Yi family's fighting strength was too strong, and they were very united internally. Therefore, they easily squeezed King Xiang out. The great emperor, in order to protect King Xiang's reputation, allowed King Xiang to come back and rest. However, King Xiang himself could not stay idle, so he led his troops to quell some bandits and the like. At the same time, the only one who could take over the Yi family's military defense in the north was King Xiang. This Prince Xiang in front of him was not weak. He also had rich experience in fighting against the barbarians. If not for the Yi family's strength being too strong, the ones guarding the north would be King Xiang's troops. Now, King Xiang's troops were cleaning up the surroundings of Fenglin City. Firstly, it was to find something to do. Secondly, it was to let his troops maintain their fighting strength and maintain a state of training. Only in this way could they maintain enough fighting strength. In conclusion, King Xiang was not a person to be trifled with. If you were to provoke him, the situation would be very bad. Yi Cheng did not consider this at all. He did not care at all. No matter how much you said, it was useless. The Yi family was angered to death by Yi Cheng's actions. Originally, the Yi family could be considered to have deliberately avoided conflict with King Xiang. They did not give the latter a chance to act out. After all, King Xiang was also a member of the royal family. Even if the Yi family could win, it was equivalent to provoking the entire royal family. It was not good for the Yi family. The Yi family also tried their best to avoid conflict with King Xiang. Now it was all good. It could be said that the peaceful days in the city had come to an end. Yi Cheng's ability to stir up trouble was self-taught. It could even be said that in the future no one could surpass him. No matter how things would develop next, it would not be the worst, only worse. The Yi family's first elder was very angry at what Yi Cheng had done. However, in private, he hoped that Yi Cheng could stir up some more trouble. This way there would be a good show. It seemed that Yi Cheng would play himself to death sooner or later. By then, Yi Cheng would be able to lead the Yi family once again. There was still hope for the future. Do your best to court death, ha ha ha. The first elder was laughing maniacally in his heart. Yi Cheng's residence. Chu Mingxi would often send over some proper herbs. It could be considered an exclusive benefit. After all, some medicinal herbs were very precious. If they were taken away, it was unknown when they would be able to find them again. It was something that could only be found by chance. But today, Chu Mingxi not only brought the herbs, but also a message. In the eastern ancient forest, there are traces of snow lotuses that have flown in for 10,000 years. If you are interested, you can go together. Several major pharmacies are also making their moves. The Ying Chan Hall strength is not enough to stop them. Snow lotuses flew over. Just from the name alone, there was a mystical feeling. It was precisely because this flying snow lotus was extremely rare. Moreover, it could move on its own, growing without roots. It was rumored that there was a young man who begged for medicine. Day and night, he prayed for a divine medicine to descend from the heavens to save his gravely ill mother. Then, the flying snow lotus descended on this very night. Of course, these rumors were all nonsense. Only some idiots would believe them. However, this did not affect the reputation of the flying snow lotus. It was rumored that the flying snow lotus could easily cure all kinds of illnesses. It might not be able to bring the dead back to life, but as long as one was still breathing, the flying snow lotus could save one's life. Naturally, everyone would want to get their hands on such a divine medicine. Flying snow lotus. Yi Cheng was also slightly surprised. He knew about this item. It was extremely rare because the birth of the flying snow lotus required the surroundings to be baptized by the power of the heavens. Otherwise, it would be difficult for the flying snow lotus to be born. There were no conditions for its formation. However, if the flying snow lotus was used to refine medicine, it would be an excellent item. Let's go. You guys lead the way. Yi Cheng said. Coincidentally, his cultivation had reached a bottleneck recently. At this time, he needed to find some herbs. Furthermore, the flying snow lotus itself was an extremely rare item. It was truly something that could only be found by chance. However, if he wanted to get the flying snow lotus, he would need to prepare some manpower. Otherwise, it would be difficult to snatch it from the hands of the 3 herb merchants. Naturally, Yi Cheng called Qing Feng and the rest over again. He brought a total of 50 people. At the same time, Yi Cheng also called Xin Chongyang over. Currently, Yi Cheng had not come into contact with martial king experts. Of course, the Yi family had some. However, Yi Cheng did not have the Evergreen Commander seal to mobilize martial king experts. When everyone was gathered, it was already afternoon. The Chu clan had specially dispatched a master herb gatherer named Chu He. He was good at finding herbs. Otherwise, it would be impossible to find these herbs in the wilderness. Only with sufficient experience could one use the surrounding environment, climate, terrain, and other factors to find the herbs. A professional guide was needed. Qing Feng and the rest were not interested in where they were going. They only needed to listen to Yi Cheng's orders. The group quickly set off towards the eastern ancient forest. Just like that, they left. Those who were paying close attention to Yi Cheng's movements started to guess what Yi Cheng was going to do when they saw him set off with the Chu family. Furthermore, he even brought 100 Qing Feng cavalry soldiers with him. It was obvious that Yi Cheng was going to do something big again. As long as this guy moved, the situation in the capital would change as well. Following Yi Cheng's movements. Fortunately, this time, Yi Cheng and the rest left the city directly and did not cause trouble for those people. Yi Cheng led the group out of the city. The ancient forest this time was about 150 miles away from the imperial city. However, The group sped up and arrived at the ancient forest by dawn of the second day. The forest ahead was dense and dense. This is the Black Earth Forest. Most of the ferocious spirit beasts in the forest are Earth-type ferocious spirit beasts. Although they are not fast, their defense and endurance are extremely high. Qing Feng already had a rough understanding of the surrounding terrain. Change to the armor-piercing shield and use a blunt hammer, Qing Feng said. The cavalrymen under him also changed their weapons, changing to a thick defensive shield. In the middle of the shield, there was a small spike. This spike was not to be underestimated. Just the tip of his finger was enough to easily break through the thick and heavy defense. It was the perfect weapon to deal with these Earth-type ferocious spirit beasts. Gung Hu and the rest saw Qing Feng's actions. They were neat and tidy, and they were impressed. For a troop to be able to do this, they were naturally very strong. They chose the best weapons and armor according to the terrain and the characteristics of the ferocious spirit beasts. One look, and one could tell that they were very professional. Qing Feng led the cavalrymen to open up a path on the left and right. This made the work of Gung Hu and the rest much easier. There were also crossbowmen on the left and right. The moment they noticed any movement, they would attack with lightning speed. Their eyes were as cold as blades. He also followed the previous path, trying to find the traces of the snow lotus. However, they had only entered the forest for 1,000 meters when they met a group of people. So. More than 10 black-clothed figures rushed out. There was a long blade at their waist. Stop! The imperial capital's medicine spirit manor has completely sealed off this area. No one is allowed to enter the forest. Medicine Spirit Manor, one of the top 3 herb merchants in the imperial capital. Qing Feng and the rest immediately stepped forward, protecting Yi Cheng behind them. Get lost, Qing Feng said coldly. The murderous intent in his eyes condensed. The black-clothed swordsman blocking Qing Feng's way was obviously intimidated by Qing Feng's aura. He couldn't help but take 2 steps back. You guys don't know what's good for you. How dare you be so presumptuous in front of the medicine spirit manor? Do you believe that I won't kill you all? There were only about 30 of them, but they dared to be so arrogant. Yi Cheng's side had more than 100 people. They dared to be so arrogant in the face of so many enemies. Kill! Yi Cheng waved his hand. He ordered. Qing Feng and the rest didn't hesitate at all. The crossbows in their hands shot out sharp arrows. So, after a round of arrows, the 30 top-notch swordsmen's chests were pierced. More than half of them fell. The remaining ones instantly understood that these people were not to be trifled with. The leader tried to escape while trying to send a signal at this moment, but it was pierced by a sharp arrow. Bang! The 3 volleys of the green-tip cavalry unit had killed all of these 30-odd people. Chu Mingxi and the rest kept quiet out of fear. Seeing such a scene, they didn't dare to speak. In the eyes of the Qing Feng cavalry, there was nothing that they couldn't kill. With these people's standards, they didn't recognize Yi Cheng's greatness. They were too stupid to think that Yi Cheng and the rest would retreat. Other than stupid, there was no other way to describe them. Immediately, the Qing Feng cavalry sent 2 of their men forward to finish off those who were still breathing. They made sure that no one was left alive and there wouldn't be any accidents. Such an absolute method indeed caused Qin Chongyang and the others to feel astonished. To be able to do such a thing, one needed to have enough experience. Normal people couldn't reach such a level. These people from the medicine spirit manor were unlucky. With such strength, they dared to seal off the road. If other people had heard of your medicine spirit manor's reputation, they would have been afraid of you and would have avoided you. But they had to meet Yi Cheng, a person who was never afraid of trouble. As the group moved forward, there were traces of a large number of people moving around. Clearly, the others had already arrived at this place ahead of them. Yi Cheng and the rest also quickened their pace. They rushed straight to a nameless mountain peak, just as they were rushing forward. Suddenly, Yi Cheng's ears twitched. There was a very soft sound of an attack in front. It was a hidden arrow. Clang! Qing Feng immediately leaped up and used the shield in his hand to block this hidden arrow. A sharp arrow was deflected away. Team 2, take down this person. The order was given. Immediately, 5 cavalrymen rushed out. Chapter 1669. Qing Feng's reaction was very fast. In this forest, it was very normal for arrows to sneak up on him. Team 2 immediately rushed forward. They were not far away from Yi Cheng's team, and the cavalry was so fast that the archer could only run away. There was no way he could stop them. The archer was arranged by Medicine's spirit manner to ambush them. Not only that, there were many experts around him. Team 2, who rushed out, quickly killed the archer. The latter did not expect the cavalry to be so strong. In the blink of an eye, they were in front of the archer and killed him. Surrounded by 5 elite cavalrymen, the archer had no chance to escape. At this moment, in the deeper part of the forest, some of the herb gatherers of Medicine's spirit manor had received the news. A group of cavalrymen had actually killed their men. The leader of Medicine's spirit manor was the young master of Medicine's spirit manor. This time, the young master of Medicine's spirit manor had come to look for the flying snow lotus in person. However, the flying snow lotus was too secretive. The young master of the Medicine's spirit manor was very anxious. A large number of people had been patrolling the area for a long time. Perhaps the snow lotus had already been taken by someone else. The young master of the Medicine's spirit manor was very anxious. A large number of people had been patrolling the area for a long time. If they returned without finding anything, it would be a great humiliation for the young master of Medicine's spirit manor. Just as the young manor master was in a bad mood, he heard that his men had been attacked, and that the other party had been quite ruthless. They did not leave any room for negotiation. Is it the other two? The 3 big herb gatherers were not in a cooperative relationship. The competition between them was very fierce. When he heard about this, the young master of Medicine's spirit manor, Yu Huaquan, at the same time he was also suspecting that it was the other 2 families who had done it. Doesn't look like it. They don't have a flag, and our men don't have a chance to talk to them? Before they could talk, they started to kill. Obviously, these people were there to cause trouble. This immediately enraged the young manor lord. He didn't even bother looking for the snow lotus in his hand. Instead, he chose to find this guy first. I want to see who it is that dares to be my enemy. Release the signal and call everyone here. Gather the other 2 groups as well. Often, searching for medicinal herbs in the wilderness was a very dangerous thing to do. The more precious the spiritual herb was, the higher the possibility of encountering a powerful, ferocious spiritual beast. Therefore, they needed to prepare enough manpower. Otherwise, they could only watch as the ferocious spiritual beasts snatched the spiritual herbs away. This kind of thing was not uncommon. However, the Medicine Spirit Manor was one of the 3 major pharmacies. They must have sufficient strength to be able to do such a thing. He had to ensure that every time he snatched something, there would be results. He would never allow others to snatch away his own results. This was a matter of great importance. Therefore, they would have ample manpower. Just this time alone, they had prepared more than 300 people in this forest. Immediately, Yu Huaquan sent out a signal to mobilize the people who were searching in the other areas. At this time, he also sent out a signal that there was an enemy attack. They had to surround the enemy from the side. They must take down the enemy and not allow the latter to continue to be arrogant. Qing Feng and the others also saw the signal. Immediately, his subordinates began to analyze the signal. Every household had their own unique communication method. It must be under such circumstances that they could send out their own information in a secret way. However, the Qing Feng Cavalry Regiment also had a course on how to decipher messages. Therefore, once the signal was sent out, they had to find the enemy's trace directly. They have 3 groups and are ready to surround us. Young master, we should kill them from the side and seize the opportunity, Qing Feng said. They didn't know the number of people and strength of the enemy. No matter how confident Qing Feng was, he couldn't let his guard down and rashly divide his troops. Once his troops were divided, it would be difficult to rescue them if they encountered a dangerous situation. They wouldn't even be able to rescue them. If they knew the enemy's strength, they could take the risk and try. I'll listen to you guys. Yi Cheng wouldn't make the decision on his own. After all, Qing Feng was a professional and had a lot of experience in battle. Although Yi Cheng was good at alchemy, he was still lacking in this aspect. He needed to put in some hard work and study. Troops on the left, attack the formation. Kill the enemy when you see them. Qing Feng was a veteran who had climbed out from a pile of dead people. When they were in the imperial capital, they would not be soft-hearted at all, let alone now. When they were attacking, they would not be soft-hearted at all. Since they had encountered each other in such a situation and the other party had surrounded them, they had to be the first to defeat these people. Otherwise, it would be difficult to suppress the arrogance of these people. The 100 men of the cavalry regiment immediately formed a triangular attack formation. Although it was a simple formation, it was very practical. Chu Mingxi and the others were also watching the movements and reactions of these people. Facing different situations, they could find different ways to deal with it and react quickly. They were indeed very professional and strong. Everyone who saw it was in awe. No one dared to go against such an army. Gung Hu and the others were naturally even more impressed. As expected of the most elite guards in the imperial capital, to be able to achieve such a level and display such strength, it shocked all of them. Although it was just some small movements, these people could do it perfectly. Close to 100 people, but only the sound of their footsteps could be heard. They either didn't have any footsteps at all, or they slowed down their footsteps. This kind of aura was indeed very strong. Once they encountered an enemy, they would be like a ferocious tiger, devouring the enemy in an instant. This was the strength of their own strength. There are enemies in front, the archer exclaimed. Similarly, more than 100 people appeared in front of them. Of course, these people were in a state of wandering, as if they were conducting a carpet search. When they saw these people, they also saw that their clothes were exactly the same as the people from before. And when the other party discovered them, they didn't hesitate to send out a signal. This was the signal of an enemy. However, the moment the signal was sent out, Qing Feng and the others had already launched their attacks, charging out at lightning speed. The number of enemies wasn't small, and they weren't weak either. But after encountering the Qing Feng cavalry, the formation collapsed quickly. Many of them were killed on the spot, their skulls separated from their bodies. Arrows pierced through their throats. Yi Cheng was also watching the group's actions. They were indeed well trained, and that was evident from the series of actions that they took. In less than 5 minutes, half of the enemy's men were dead. The leader of the other party had also realized that the strength of these cavalry was not simple. Immediately he roared, "Retreat! These people are not simple. We're no match for them. Call for reinforcements." In the blink of an eye they fled. If they continued to wait, the arrows of the other party would be able to kill them. These people were too strong. They had to retreat first. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to hold on. If this continued, everyone would die. None of them were a match for a jungle battle. Looking at these people, Yi Cheng couldn't help but nod. Not bad. If there were 10,000 of them, they would be able to take down a dynasty. Yi Cheng didn't have much of an idea, but a master couldn't take down a city. You could only destroy the city, but you couldn't take over the city or even the whole dynasty. Hearing Yi Cheng's praise, Qing Feng's lips curled up slightly. Obviously, he was very proud of himself. Training the Qing Feng cavalry requires a lot of resources. The Yi family can only afford 500 of them. If we could have 10,000 of them, not to mention taking down a dynasty, any army in the dynasty would be no match for us. It was rare for Qing Feng to say so much. At least it was something that wasn't part of the mission. Before sending the Qingfeng cavalry unit into battle, the standard of combat strength was like this. As a matter of fact, there were still many variables in the real battle. Plus, even though the Qingfeng cavalry had a lot of experience, this was the first time they were sent into a real battle. The opponents were too weak. Therefore, Qingfeng was in a good mood. In a short 5 minutes, Yu Huaquan received 2 signals. The first signal was that they had encountered an enemy. When they saw this signal, they were excited. They had to stop these people and give them a good beating. In the end, the second signal was the signal that they were fleeing. What was going on? When Yu Huaquan saw this signal, he was stunned. Could it be that the enemy was a ferocious spirit beast army? They defeated his men so quickly. Let the others meet up with us first. I want to see who these people are. The more arrogant the enemy was, the more excited Yu Huaquan was. Defeating a weak opponent could not even be considered an opponent. Only by trampling such a powerful enemy under his feet would he feel such satisfaction in his heart. That was why he felt so excited. The enemy had to be strong enough to attract Yu Huaquan's interest. Just as Yu Huaquan was about to search for Yi Cheng's location, the Azure Tip Cavalry Regiment had already confirmed their location. When Yu Huaquan's men made their move, they had already sent people out. They had to confirm the enemy's location first before they could attack. That was an undeniable fact. Qingfeng was naturally aware of this. Therefore, it only took a few minutes. The Qingfeng cavalry had already surrounded them, and the crossbows in their hands fired a volley of arrows. Some of the weaker guards were immediately wiped out. There were 2 white-haired old men beside Yu Huaquan. Suddenly, they felt the sharp aura in the air and quickly blocked the aura. "Young master, be careful." Chapter 1670. In the entire Crimson Spirit City, all the buildings that were destroyed were directly restored under the power of the rules and were in perfect condition. Li Zongjie also obtained a large amount of soul beans. Of course, the most important thing was that the Qing gang's reputation had spread. Li Zongjie's own strength had also increased greatly. Li Zongjie was not in a hurry to do other things. Instead, he went into seclusion for 2 days. He adjusted his own strength. This seclusion caused Lingyu, who came to find Li Zongjie, to be shut out for 2 consecutive days. Lingyu, who was originally in high spirits, was instantly extinguished. This guy is really a big shot. Evil Lord, you really dare to give a name. Ling, you could not help but think. It had to be said that Li Zongjie was indeed quite bold. One must know that there were not many people who dared to call themselves supremes. At the very least, they had to be at the heavenly monarch realm to have such confidence. If one could not bear the luck brought by their name, then they would be crushed by their own fame. Therefore, it was better to keep a low profile. After waiting for 2 days, finally, Li Zongjie came out of seclusion. Ling Yu also came to visit again. He learned from Honglong that Ling Yu had been here several times already. Although Li Zongjie was cold, Ling Yu's character was not bad. Moreover, the strength she displayed in the big battle was remarkable. Moreover, from the looks of it, she belonged to the core of the Scarlet Spirit capital city. Otherwise, she would not belong to the city Lord level battle circle. It could be said that without these array masters, the Scarlet Spirit capital city would be in a very bad state. Ling Yu in front of him had also made an indelible contribution to protect the Scarlet Spirit capital city. Therefore, after coming out of seclusion and hearing that Ling Yu had come, he immediately let her in. One must know that this place belonged to Ling Yu. Li Zongjie was only temporarily renting this place. "Why are you looking for me?" After Li Zongjie and Ling Yu met, they didn't exchange many pleasantries. Ling Yu didn't expect Li Zongjie to be so straightforward. He wanted her to make a long story short. Ling Yu was really angered by Li Zongjie's way of treating his guests. Couldn't she sit here for a while longer? "I'm here to ask, how did you deal with that giant snake demon?" Ling Yu asked straightforwardly. Just in time. Show me how to deal with this thing. Li Zongjio took out the serpent demon trapped in the bottle. For the past 2 days, Li Zongjio had been paying close attention to this bottle. Although the bottle had been used to store chaotic qi, it seemed like the serpent demon had found a way to continuously attack the bottle. It wanted to escape from the bottle. Li Zongjio sensed that the bottle didn't seem to be able to hold on for much longer. If he wanted to change the bottle, the serpent demon would escape in an instant. It was basically impossible to catch it again. When Li Zongjio took out the bottle in his hand, Ling Yu glanced over and was instantly shocked. You actually caught it alive. Ling Yu's beautiful eyes were full of shock. She couldn't believe her eyes. How did Li Zongjio do it? He was actually able to directly capture a demon at the peak of the celestial realm alive. Even the Crimson Soul City Lord didn't have such ability. Although he could kill it, he didn't have the ability to capture it alive. This was a very difficult thing in itself, because a demon at the peak of the celestial realm was really too terrifying. This was simply playing with fire and getting burned. I engraved a transmission array in this bottle, Li Zongjio said. Ling Yu also remembered that at the beginning, Li Zongjio did use the transmission array to take the serpent demon away. At that time, almost everyone thought that Li Zongjio directly died with the serpent demon. Later, Li Zongjio also suddenly appeared. It also surprised everyone. They didn't know how Li Zongjio came to be able to create such a miracle. You're really bold. Ling Yu was also stunned by Li Zongjio's behavior. He actually dared to do such a bold thing. One should know that if he was careless, it was very likely that Li Zongjio and the serpent demon would be trapped together in the bottle. In that case, it was very obvious what would happen. It was impossible to leave alive. There was no other way at that time. Li Zongjio said indifferently. It could be said that Li Zongjio himself was very brave. In such a critical moment, he could think of such a way. At the same time, it also showed that Li Zongjio's cultivation in array formations was very solid. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to complete the transmission array in such a critical situation. It was indeed very impressive. This thing is very dangerous. The bottle is already extremely unstable. After a while, it will definitely explode. Now that the city lord is in a state of seclusion, if this serpent demon is released, it will be a disaster for the Red Spirit City. Ling Yu said calmly. Li Zongjio naturally knew that if it wasn't for the fact that the situation was getting out of control, he wouldn't have shown this thing to Ling Yu. The main reason was that Ling Yu was more pleasing to the eye, and Li Zongjio had enough strength to protect himself now. Even if Ling Yu had any bad intentions, it wouldn't be difficult to kill Ling Yu. Ling Yu probably didn't even dream of it. Li Zongjio actually wanted to kill her. He was so guarded against her. However, she was also trying her best to think of a way to get rid of this serpent demon. In the entire city, only the city lord had the strength to kill the serpent demon. But the city lord had gone through such a tragic battle. Now, he was in seclusion to recuperate. Obviously, the city lord of Red Spirit City had consumed a lot of energy. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in such a hurry to go into seclusion. Now the only person who could kill the serpent demon was in seclusion, unless he went to find the city lord of other cities. But this thing was actually very valuable. Very few people could capture such a top demon alive. I have a way to try. Ling Yu suddenly thought of it, and her eyes shone brighter. The first few chapters are wrong. Please ignore it, because it's too long ago. The changes can't be synchronized with other parts. Please forgive me. Chapter 16, 71. What method? Li Zongjio asked. This is a formation that I use to study. It's called the plunder formation. But ever since the formation was completed, there hasn't been enough energy to activate the formation. Plunder formation? Hearing the name of the formation, one could roughly guess the effect of the formation. Then, Ling Yu explained the general idea of the plunder formation to Li Zongjio. She didn't hide anything and was very direct. If we want to plunder the power of this thing, We need someone to absorb it. Li Zongjiu said. This plunder array formation was equivalent to a forceful transformation array formation. It could directly plunder the power of anything thrown into the array formation. However, the power of the plunder also needed a carrier. It had to be able to store the power. If there wasn't, it would be difficult for the formation to succeed. With the strength of the three of us, we should be able to absorb the power of this big snake demon. After all, the conversion rate of the plunder formation is at most 1/10. Ling Yu said, "The three of us?" Li Zongjiu frowned. "And my sister, Ling Shui." "Take me to see your formation first," Li Zongjiu said. This was an urgent matter. But in fact, this thing was nothing to Li Zongjiu. After all, if he really couldn't control this thing, he could just find a place and throw it away. By then, there would naturally be someone to deal with him. He couldn't possibly follow me all the way. Moreover, it was impossible for this guy to kill his way into the main city alone. Although the Red Soul City Lord was now in seclusion, everything in the city had been restored. At least, he still had the power to protect himself. The other party could only wait for an opportunity to find trouble with Li Zongjiu. Before that, Li Zongjiu had reconfirmed his gang's encampment. This guy couldn't be arrogant either. Therefore, there were many ways to deal with the latter, but it depended on which method would benefit Li Zongjiu the most. This was the real key. Naturally, he didn't care about anything else. In this great world, everyone only had one goal, and that was to become even more powerful. Li Zongjiu also had the same idea. Now, Li Zongjiu's strength had reached the celestial realm. But if he wanted to become stronger, Li Zongjiu would definitely not refuse to improve his strength. Even after returning, he would definitely be able to protect himself. That was merely an incarnation of an avatar. If this guy's real body descended, Li Zongjiu would naturally have to deal with him. The latter's real body strength was at the Heavenly Lord realm. Li Zongjiu might not have so much time and opportunity to improve his strength next time. Therefore, he had to master this power, improve his strength, learn powerful incantations. This was Li Zongjiu's current goal. And the plundering array that Ling Yu mentioned was, at least in Li Zongjiu's opinion, quite worth it. Otherwise, Li Zongjiu would really have sold this big snake demon directly in exchange for a large amount of soul beans. Then, it wouldn't be too late to improve his strength. Now that he had the ability, the soul beans basically all automatically ran into his pocket. Now, the Green Gang had Li Zongjiu's reputation as the commander of the Evil Lord. Instantly, it became popular, especially Li Zongjiu previously. It was said that he single-handedly destroyed the Heavenly Fiend Alliance and Commander Mishur. He could be said to be very powerful. His reputation could be said to be at the peak of the city. In addition, the Green Gang was already a second-grade gang. The number of people that could be recruited would increase. Many people paid the membership fee one after another in order to join the Green Gang. This kind of strength was indeed very powerful. Li Zongjiu didn't have to do anything every day, but he still had a lot of soul beans to earn. At least for Li Zongjiu, he didn't have to worry about this small amount of soul beans. In the future, he only had to wait for an opportunity to bring the entire Green Gang to complete a mission with more benefits. Then, the entire Green Gang's strength would increase. By then, Li Zongjiu would be even richer. Ling Yu also sent out a signal and called Ling Shui over. When Ling Shui saw Li Zongjiu and Ling Yu walking together, a trace of mischief appeared in her eyes. "I told you, no one can resist your charm," Ling Shui said with a smile. However, Li Zongjiu didn't care about these things at all. They were both people who had experienced so many things. How could they not be able to tolerate such a small tease? The array base of the array is somewhere outside the city. Let's go. Ling Yu glared at Ling Shui and said, after which, Ling Yu brought Li Zongjiu and Ling Shui out of the city. Along the way, Ling Yu also told Ling Shui about this matter. Ling Shui's beautiful eyes were filled with disbelief. She immediately widened her eyes and looked at Li Zhongjiu. She really didn't expect Li Zhongjiu to have such courage. Such a bold method wasn't something that anyone could think of, nor was it something that anyone dared to do. Only a true expert would be able to achieve such a feat, therefore. Ling Xue admired Li Zhongjiu even more in her heart. However, Li Zhongjiu didn't want to explain the situation at that time. If there were any other way, Li Zhongjiu would never have done it. Moreover, if Li Zhongjiu's chaotic body hadn't resisted the powerful poison of the serpent demon, Li Zhongjiu would have been a dead man by now. The three of them left the city, quietly. Although their whereabouts were very well hidden, they were still seen by someone who was observant. This person was the handsome man who stayed by Ling Yu's side. Pei Feng. Pei Feng wasn't a commander, nor was he from the Scarlet Spirit City. He came from the Sky Spirit Valley. As a hidden sect, the Sky Spirit Valley didn't keep a low profile. On the surface, it was hidden between heaven and earth. In fact, it often sent its disciples down the mountain to promote the spirit of the sect. Because of this, even though the Spirit Valley sect was a hidden sect, it was still known by others. The reason why they hid was because they found a treasure land and didn't want to share it with others. Pei Feng also came here for the enrollment of the Spirit Valley sect. At the same time, Ling Yu and her sister were also disciples of the Spirit Valley sect. Pei Feng originally coveted Ling Yu, but he couldn't get her. He didn't expect that the usually cold Ling Yu would be so interested in Li Zhongjiu. Wait until I destroy this kid. Let's see if you can still talk and laugh. Chapter 1672. Ling Yu and the others didn't know that they were being watched while they were out. However, Li Zhongjiu was aware of it. After all, Li Zhongjiu was now the leader of the Qin gang. After he took over, Li Zhongjiu needed to protect himself the most. Therefore, if anything happened, it would be convenient for him to protect himself. Therefore, Li Zhongjiu had arranged for some people to follow him secretly in the city. The main thing was that he needed to know if there were other people following him secretly. This little bit of insurance still needed to be taken. Soon, some people discovered Pei Feng's movements. They passed the news to Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu himself wasn't in a hurry. With his current strength, even if someone really wanted to deal with him, it wouldn't be an easy task. Li Zhongjiu could easily deal with the other party. However, he was not in a hurry now. Li Zhongjiu wanted to see what these people were up to first. Ever since he had taken control of the Qin gang, basically all the members of the gang had become Li Zhongjiu's informants. He had a panoramic view of everything. News from all directions quickly gathered in Li Zhongjiu's hands. Therefore, Li Zhongjiu could clearly grasp the movements around him. Since Pei Feng wanted to deal with Li Zhongjiu decided to investigate Pei Feng's background first. At the same time, Li Zhongjiu made arrangements to eliminate Pei Feng at any time and create some opportunities to kill Pei Feng. Ling Yu and Ling Xue brought Li Zhongjiu to a place with beautiful scenery. There was a waterfall that hung directly on the mountain peak. It kept falling. There was a small wooden house by the river. It was very secluded and quiet. Staying in such a place was considered a peaceful environment. Li Zhongjiu liked this kind of place. Previously, when we were living in seclusion here, most of the runes were completed here. I carved a plundering rune under this waterfall. After reaching a certain level of cultivation, there would be a period of time where they would choose to live in seclusion. However, as time passed, they would return to the city due to various reasons, and it would be difficult for them to leave. It was normal for him to go back and forth. Li Zhongjiu saw that there were indeed traces of a formation at the bottom of the river. He was very smart to hide the formation under the river so that it wouldn't suffer any accidental damage. When no one was watching over it, it would be able to preserve the formation more completely. Otherwise, who knows what kind of situation would occur in the outside world. It was a very common thing to destroy an array that had already been drawn. In that case, let's begin. On the way here, in order to save time, Ling Yu had already explained how to carry out the rune because Li Zongjiu seemed to be very busy. Li Zongjiu really couldn't understand. What was he thinking about all day long when he was with two beauties? Why was he in such a hurry? Where was he going? Li Zongjiu didn't know how to cherish the moment he was given. In that case, she chose to do things according to the rules. The power of the serpent demon was too strong. Therefore, at least the three of them needed to work together to absorb the power of the plundering rune and maintain the stability of their own strength. Li Zongjiu handed the bottle that contained the serpent demon to Ling Yu. Ling Yu first made some carvings on the bottle and directly connected the bottle with the plundering rune. In this way, she could plunder the power of the bottle. Then, she directly threw the bottle into the water. At the same time, Li Zongjiu and the other two also sank into the water. Before entering the water, Li Zongjiu also arranged for Li Zongjiu to hide on the shore and pay attention to the situation outside. If there were any problems, he could inform Li Zongjiu in time. As a defensive measure, he couldn't pin his hopes on the two women in front of him. Although the two women had some skills, they were still very inexperienced in the underworld. It seemed that the two of them must have a very strong backing and a very strong background. Otherwise, the two of them would have been caught and locked up. Since he knew that the two of them were not to be trifled with, Li Zongjiu had to be more cautious when dealing with them. According to the positions that were previously assigned, the plundering rune would transform the energy. In addition, there were also special absorption points. Li Zongjiu was the first one. He would be able to absorb the most energy. The rest of the people also had a second absorption point. Ling Yu and Ling Shui also occupied the second and third spots. Ling Yu was the one who activated the array. Li Zongjiu had studied arrays before, so he could tell that Ling Yu wasn't lying to Yi Cheng. The plundering array was activated. Above the calm river, a terrifying energy rapidly surged out. But soon, the surface of the river calmed down, and all the power was restrained. Ling Yu did not want anyone to know what she was doing. If some wandering demon beasts or primitive beasts noticed her and purposely came here to wreak havoc, it would have a great impact on them. If the array formation was destroyed, it would cause a real energy storm. Within the array, the bottle also cracked slightly. At the same time, the power of the serpent demon had been fixed by the power of the array. At the same time, it was continuously transferring its own power into the array. Boom! When the first wave of energy appeared, Li Zongjiu could feel the flood-like energy rushing towards him. Heaven, void, God form, record. Refine it. Li Zongjiu started to absorb the terrifying energy crazily, transforming it into his own Yuan power. Although Li Zongjiu had just broken through, how could he let go of such a rare opportunity to obtain energy so easily? This would definitely allow Li Zongjiu's power to increase again. The energy came too quickly. Ling Shui and Ling Yu exchanged glances with each other at the bottom of the water, after which they began to circulate their strength and gradually refine the energy in their bodies. They refined and absorbed the energy that was surging towards them. Ao Tian was wandering outside the river. 2 days later, Ao Tian saw a few figures in the distance. They seemed to be riding on clouds, and he was shocked. Oh no, Master was right. Chapter 1673. Ao Tian hid in the distance and saw 3 figures flying over from the sky. Moreover, judging from the aura of these 3 people, they were extremely powerful. All of them had the strength of celestial realm. Ao Tian did not dare to reveal himself even though he had completely evolved to the strength of heavenly dragon realm. However, if Ao Tian were to fight against 3 of them alone, it would definitely be a dead end. Most importantly, facing these people with Ao Tian's strength, he did not have much of a chance of winning. It was better not to send himself to death. He could feel such a terrifying aura from afar. Ao Tian also quickly contacted Li Zongjiu through his own connection. This was to tell Li Zongjiu that there were enemies coming. However, Li Zongjie was also at a critical point in his cultivation at the moment and did not respond to Ao Tian. Ao Tian could only hide for the time being. Facing these three experts who suddenly appeared in front of him, the only thing Ao Tian could do was to hide. If he were to be discovered, he would only have his tendons pulled out and his skin peeled off. The people who rushed over from afar were Pei Feng and the others. Pei Feng had specially called two of his best friends from outside his own sect to help him. The strength of these two people was naturally needless to say. They were third-stage celestial realm experts. In the celestial realm, they were also very powerful existences. Although their levels were not very high, the means of these two people were also quite powerful. Usually, if Pei Feng had someone he could not deal with, he would find these two people. Boundless, Ghostly Hand, Summing Blade, two celestial realm experts, under the strong combination, could form a powerful combat power. It was definitely not something that a single celestial realm expert could withstand. I only want that kid's life. It's best to capture him alive. As for the other two girls, they are my junior sisters. I will deal with them. Pei Feng said, I heard that this kid has just become the commander of Red Soul City. Boundless said worriedly. There was a trace of hesitation between his eyebrows. It was not that he was afraid of the latter's strength, but it would be very troublesome if he were to take action. To be able to become a commander, he more or less had some relationship with the city lord. His main concern was that if the city lord came to settle old scores, this matter would be troublesome. If things didn't go well, the city lord might issue an order to hunt them down and put them on the wanted list. That would be a big deal. This was also a problem that needed to be considered. Don't worry, this kid is not related to the city lord at all. I've already investigated him. He was only given the position of commander because of his contributions during the previous siege of the city by the fiendish demons. He's not an official member. Pei Feng said. What did he do? The Azure Sea Saber stopped. He still had to get to the bottom of this matter and figure out what exactly was going on. The position of commander was extremely rare. Even if he spent 1,000,000 soul beans, he might not be able to buy such a position. Therefore, they were very curious about what kind of contribution Li Zongjie had made. The two of them were not from the Crimson Soul City. However, they were also very clear about how terrifying the strength of these city lords was. If a city lord really wanted to kill you, you wouldn't be able to escape. If this Li Zongjie had done a great favor to a city lord and they came and killed Li Zongjie, then it would be perfect. Everything would be too late. It would be too late for regrets. After living in this world for so long, they still had to understand this. Caution was the parent of safety. If they weren't careful, they could capsize at any time. Although they were all ruthless people, they were also the type that could take their lives. If they weren't careful, they would lose their lives. Hundreds of years of cultivation would be destroyed in an instant. No one wanted to see such a situation happen. It's just killing a demon. When did the two of you become so cowardly? If you don't dare to do it, I'll just find someone else. I know quite a few Sky Realm experts. Pei Feng said indifferently. At the same time, they looked at the two people in front of them with disdain. Although they had called the two of them to do it, Pei Feng also knew that they had to rely on themselves to do it. Two celestial realm powerhouses, plus a formation master. Such a combat combination, no matter where it was, would be a very powerful existence. Therefore, it was easy for Pei Feng to call the other two people over. As an array master, he still had the ability to rally people. Nowadays, who didn't need to set up arrays in their residence. If they didn't, they wouldn't feel safe. Therefore, array masters were also very popular. Many ancient explorations also required the participation of array masters. A trace of hesitation appeared in the eyes of the two people. Before they made their move, they already had a very bad premonition. At their level, premonition was also very important, although it was very likely that they were just overthinking things. As long as a premonition appeared, it was worth being vigilant. However, the 200,000 soul beans in that kid's hands can only be given to others for free. Pei Feng said with a sigh. The two people were suddenly shocked. 200,000 soul beans. You're telling the truth? Of course it's true. Pei Feng said. A trace of craftiness appeared in his eyes. Indeed, these people truly valued wealth as much as their lives. They didn't care about other things and would even have many misgivings. However, when it came to soul beans, these fugitives would do anything. Since this person dares to go against young Master Pei, he is going against my Songming blade. No matter what his identity is, I will definitely cut him in half. That's right. I, Ghostly Hands Boundless, will definitely break his tendons and bones. Twist him into a fried dough twist. When Pei Feng saw this, he laughed coldly in his heart. However, on the surface, he naturally agreed. If it weren't for the soul beans, would these people be so proactive? Don't think that these experts were all very rich. In reality, the stronger a person was, the poorer they were. One had to know that cultivation consumed a lot of soul beans. It consumed a lot of resources. If they wanted to increase one level, according to the calculation of soul beans, they would need at least 1,000,000 soul beans if they wanted to increase their strength by another level. Therefore, the path of strength increase was relatively difficult. 200,000 soul beans were placed in front of them. How could they let this opportunity slip away? Chapter 1674. Just as Songming Blade and Boundless, Ghostly Hands were starting to imagine how they were going to split the 200,000 soul beans, suddenly a thundercloud also condensed in the sky. Heavenly human tribulation lightning. Someone is breaking through nearby. The two of them immediately identified the thundercloud. Someone must be breaking through nearby, which was why there was such a huge commotion. Immediately, they locked onto a place. It was the bottom of the waterfall. Indeed, in the next second, a figure rushed up from under the waterfall. It was Li Zongjiu. When Ao Tian, who was in the distance, saw Li Zongjiu appear at this moment, he immediately cursed inwardly. Why did he appear at this moment? Moreover, he wanted to break through at such a critical moment. Although these enemies would not dare to come close during a breakthrough, there would be a period of weakness after a breakthrough. Pei Feng's gaze instantly locked onto this figure. He locked onto Li Zongjiu. They saw Li Zongjiu's figure land on the cliff. It was like he was completely oblivious to his surroundings, as if he did not see them. He was fully immersed in his cultivation. Even Li Zongjiu did not expect to break through so quickly after reaching the heavenly human realm. This was mainly because of the overbearing power of the plunder formation. Because of the plunder formation, Li Zongjiu was able to refine and absorb the power of the giant snake demon. 80% of the energy was taken by Li Zongjiu. When the heavenly void divine record was activated, it was like a huge mouth that could never be full, desperately sucking in the energy. Li Zongjiu was also very surprised. After all, when he cultivated the heavenly void divine record, it did not have such an effect. How could there be such an overbearing and unyielding scene in this great world? Li Zongjiu also saw Pei Feng and the others through his probing. Don't be anxious. This brat is probably dead for sure. After passing through the tribulation, he will definitely be in a weakened state. I never imagined that it would actually be such a heaven-sent opportunity. As long as we take advantage of his weakened state to bind him, we will be able to easily make him hand over the soul beans. If the other party didn't take the initiative to hand over the soul beans, then it was very likely that they wouldn't be able to obtain anything. It would truly be a life and death struggle. This wasn't good news for the two Songming blades. Although he had already received some benefits from Pei Feng, if there were more benefits, why not? Naturally, he would not reject such a good thing. Very good. I didn't expect you to break through so quickly. What a pity. Pei Feng was starting to feel sorry for Li Zongjiu. However, at this moment, Pei Feng also sensed that there were two figures below the waterfall. Weren't they Ling Shui and Ling Yu? What? Seeing this, Pei Feng's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He was playing with Ling Shui and Ling Yu. On the surface, it looked like he was cultivating. However, who knew what he was doing before he started cultivating? Perhaps he was even planning to do something after he started cultivating. It was indescribable and unforgivable. Pei Feng's murderous aura instantly became extremely terrifying. At this moment, he couldn't help but want to rush up. Brother, calm down. If you rush into the range of the tribulation clouds, you will also be affected. Songming Blades saw that Pei Feng was actually so angry because of two women. He lost his composure and almost lost his life. He sighed. What a fool. With strength, what kind of women couldn't he have? Why did he have to be so conflicted about one or two? Did he really think that he was an innocent young man? Moreover, many times things were ruined by one or two women. He was already in the sky realm, yet he still couldn't get rid of such matters. It was truly regrettable. Hearing this, Pei Feng finally calmed down. At this moment, Li Zongjie was welcoming his own tribulation. Although the ancient golden body art could no longer reach such a level, Li Zongjie had already grasped the basic method of tempering his body. The chaotic body also allowed Li Zongjie to feel his own strength. When the tribulation lightning struck, Li Zongjie didn't even use any extra yuan qi. Instead, he used his body to resist it. Although it was very risky, it was nothing to Li Zongjie. He had experienced greater risks in the past. 19 lightning bolts struck down continuously. Li Zongjie's body was charred black. He didn't seem to have any aura, as if he had been struck into pieces by the lightning. Not everyone would have such a tribulation lightning when they broke through. Only some heaven-defying cultivation methods, or those with extremely powerful physiques and strength, could attract this kind of lightning tribulation. When the time comes, I must ask this kid for all his cultivation techniques. Boundless, ghostly hands said with desire in his eyes. Finally, the tribulation lightning dispersed. Guys, let's do it, Pei Feng said. At this moment, there was no need to wait. He didn't even need to rush to set up the formation. As long as the two of them attacked, they could easily kill Li Zongjie. It wasn't difficult at all. Finally, Ao Tian couldn't take it anymore. With a loud roar, he transformed into his real body. When Ao Tian appeared, he really did give them a fright. This was because they really did not sense that such a powerful poison dragon was actually hiding nearby. Poisonous dragon Ao Tian. After he appeared, he released a terrifying aura. Ao Tian didn't know if he could survive if he rushed out, but at least he could buy some time for his master. After all, his life was given by Li Zongjie. Interesting, there's a small dragon. I'm lacking a belt made of dragon tendons. Boundless, ghostly hands said. Ao Tian's heart was naturally filled with anxiety. Facing two terrifying third-grade celestial realm existences, what else was there to talk about? Don't force yourself if you can't. Just when Ao Tian was feeling a little guilty, but he was still determined to stay here, a familiar voice sounded again. It was Li Zongjie. Ao Tian's eyes lit up. He wanted to hold on until Li Zongjie woke up. Even if he had to self-destruct, he wanted to drive away the enemy in front of him and hold on for a while, so that Li Zongjie could adjust, and it would be best if he could find a chance to escape. He would come back for revenge in the future. The future was long. However, he didn't expect Li Zongjie to wake up so soon. The two opposite also saw Li Zongjie's figure waking up. There's no aura. Could he have become immortal? Let's cripple him first. Li Zongjie looked at the two in front of him, but his eyes swept past them and looked at Pei Feng, who was behind. So it's you, the coward. I noticed you long ago. If you're so capable, why don't you fight yourself? Coward. Chapter 16, 75. Zhao Kaishan had chased away the Fan family members in front of him. However, he did not know that the Fan family members were here to deal with the Bright Moon sect. Just now, that guy took the initiative to attack Zhao Kaishan. Therefore, Zhao Kaishan took his life. After all, when that guy attacked, he did not think about keeping Zhao Kaishan alive. As a return of courtesy, Zhao Kaishan took action and easily ended the latter's life. If these people had any objections, they would have raised it on the spot. However, Zhao Kaishan saw that these people did not seem to have any objections. Then, Zhao Kaishan continued to lead Zhao Chuang out. In fact, they had already hidden in a place far away to meet. However, Zhao Kaishan's speed was too fast. He had already cleared out an area of nearly 20 miles. That was why he found these people. The people of the Mysterious Heart Heavenly Sect also thought that the place they chose was very hidden, but they were still found by Zhao Kaishan. However, Zhao Kaishan did not seem to recognize them at all. A very good opportunity to confront each other passed by. Or rather, it was because Fan Long was afraid that he did not make a move. After Zhao Kaishan left, Fan Long and the others also stopped in a dilapidated house 25 miles away. This was a pavilion. There were often people who built pavilions in different places. Whether it was raining or blowing, it was a very good place to shelter from the wind and rain. Sometimes one could also enjoy the scenery in the pavilion. Drink afternoon tea. Originally, Fan Long wanted to bring the people of Chuan Yun Hall to have fun. But now that one of them had died, how could he be in the mood to have fun? It must be something extremely dangerous. It was better to deal with the troublesome Zhao Kaishan first. This was the first time Fan Long had encountered a situation where he was so uncertain. This was because Fan Long could not find any flaws in Zhao Kaishan at all. In addition, Zhao Kaishan's reputation made Fan Long even more afraid. He did not even flare up when one of his people was killed. Hall Master Fan, what do you think about this matter? Wang Xian could not help but ask. The person was clearly in front of you, but you did not make a move. What were you doing? Were you here for a vacation? Are you teaching me how to do things? Are you teaching the Fan family how to do things? Fan Long immediately glared at Wang Xian. For the time being, I don't have the ability to deal with Zhao Kaishan. But if I want to deal with you, there won't be many difficulties or obstacles. I can easily crush you to death. There was no resistance. Suddenly, the experts of the Cloud Traversal Hall looked over. Their eyes were filled with malicious intent. Now that the Fan family had suffered a loss, they dared to hit them while they were down. They were simply unscrupulous. Such a person naturally had to be beaten to death on the spot. We wouldn't dare. If you have any instructions, please feel free to ask. Wang Xian immediately said. At the same time, he led his people out of the pavilion, not daring to stay close to these people from the Fan family. At this moment, Wang Xian was regretting it. He never thought that the people from the Fan family would be so rude and overbearing. Their profound heart, celestial sect, had invited trouble onto themselves. Wang Xian didn't even know what the Fan family would do next. Fan Long pondered for a moment. For safety's sake, it was better to send a message back and gather more experts. Otherwise, he would still be worried. Gather the experts of the Fan family first to ensure absolute safety. Everything else could be dealt with later. After all, this Zhao Kaishan was indeed unfathomable. Send a message back. Level 1 reinforcements. Originally, their operation this time was already a Level 2 operation. Now, it was directly upgraded to a Level 1. This was a very serious situation. Otherwise, this situation wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't have used such a method to continue gathering the experts of the Fan family. However, Fan Long was the deputy hall master. Since he said so, there must be a reason for it. Therefore, his subordinates sent a message back. I've already sent a message back. My Fan family will gather more experts. Once they arrive, we will attack the Bright Moon sect. We will take back the mine. How long will that take? Wang Xian couldn't help but ask. He didn't know how long this back and forth would take. Didn't he know that time was the most important thing? They were already in such a tense situation. Could it be that they had to continue waiting? The other party had already started preparing and surveying the mind map. What? You want to teach me how to do things? Why don't your mysterious heart, celestial, sect go ahead and kill them? Fan Long said angrily. No. Hall Master Fan, please calm down. It's just that the Bright Moon sect has already started surveying the mind map. If the mind map is completed, we will be completely in a passive position, Wang Xian said. Speaking of the mind map, Fan Long fell silent. After all, the Fan family had suffered a loss because of the mind map before. It was because a small part of the mind map had entered the territory of the Chow family. Hence, the Chow family made a big fuss about it. In the end, they used despicable means to seize the mine. However, during this period of time, the Fan family had also recovered from other places. Were they going to suffer a loss because of the mind map again? They will need at least 3 days to survey the mind map. There's still time. During this time, you will be in charge of scouting, Fan Long said. At the same time, he instructed his subordinates and the people of the Mysterious Heart Celestial Sect to assist in the investigation. Otherwise, they would not know what to do during this period of time. This, Wang Xian did not expect these people to be so cowardly when they came. To think that they would continue to wait for help. Why don't you just bring the entire Fan family over? Yes. We will go and prepare the manpower right away. Wang Xian said quickly. It was easy to invite the devil in, but difficult to send him away. Wang Xian finally understood the saying. Just as Wang Xian and the others were about to set off, another figure appeared outside the gazebo with a little beast. Why are you guys still here? Are you courting death? Zhao Kaishan had cleared the area within a radius of 5 miles. Now he saw that there were still so many people gathered in the pavilion. When he looked down, he realized that they were the people who were on the mountain earlier. Why were they still here? Could it be that they were plotting something? When Fan Long and the others saw Zhao Kaishan, they sucked in a breath of cold air. Could it be that Zhao Kaishan had come to his senses and specially came to hunt them down? Everyone's gaze turned to Fan Long. Whether or not they would fight and bury Zhao Kaishan now was up to Fan Long. If Fan Long wanted to make a move, he would take advantage of this opportunity. Let's have a cup of tea here. After that, we will leave. Fan Long calmed down and said in a deep voice. Chapter 1676. Li Zongjiu directly provoked Pei Feng, but Pei Feng did not fall for it. He was a formation master and was not good at fighting head-on, but given enough time, he would be able to set up a formation. On the other hand, he could set up a formation to easily trap you and then slowly kill you. Offending a formation master was a very terrifying thing. Back then, Li Zongjiu relied on a set of burning soul pillar formation treasures to become invincible. It gave him a lot of convenience, allowing Li Zongjiu to kill a lot of people. Later, it was destroyed and there was no other way. After all, the strength of the enemy was too strong and there was always a limit. Formation Master, Li Zongjiu smiled disdainfully. However, he was already thinking about killing the person in front of him. Then he would see if there were any treasures in this guy's hands. Perhaps there might be some high-level secret array books. Now, Li Zongjiu's formation cultivation had stagnated. It was because he did not have any more high-level formations to study. If Li Zongjiu wanted to study and comprehend on his own, it would take a long time. His foundation in array formation was already there, so he could learn it very quickly. Cut the crap. Cripple him first, Boundless, ghostly hand said, facing a person who had just passed the stage 2 celestial tribulation. He did not have much fear. Was the stage 3 celestial realm just for show? Did he really think that he could improve his strength so easily? If he did not have some real ability, he would not have been able to live to this level. Boundless, ghostly hands took the initiative to attack. Suddenly, tens of thousands of black handprints appeared in the sky. These handprints seemed illusory, but they also seemed to be real. They surrounded Li Zongjiu and attacked one after another, landing on Li Zongjiu. A fierce light flashed in Ao Tian's eyes. This attack was too strong. Even with his own defense, he could barely block it. It was not enough to block this move. Maybe he would meet the king of hell under this palm. As for Li Zongjiu, Ao Tian did not know if Li Zongjiu could block it. Facing the palm prince falling from the sky, Li Zongjiu also activated his spiritual power. The Heaven Void Divine Form Record was running wildly in his body. Heaven Void Fist. Not only did Li Zongjiu have a breakthrough, but he also directly comprehended this move from the Heaven Void Divine Form Record. However, Li Zongjiu was not sure how strong his move was, so he tried to use it. After all, just by relying on his own defensive power, he would be able to withstand the attack before him. At least try to test the move just to see how strong it was. As Li Zongjiu performed, boundless, ghostly hands, ghost palm. At this moment, they were also crazily crumbling. Li Zongjiu's fist easily shattered boundless, ghostly hands' myriad of palm techniques. Broke at the touch. Boundless, ghostly hands' eyes were also very clear that this move had completely suppressed his own move. See Tyrant Blade Cut! A faint, dark sky chi, mixed with the other party's horrifying saber chi, suddenly chopped at Li Zongjiu. It seemed to pass through the Milky Way and finally landed on Li Zongjiu's head. Li Zongjiu's body was completely covered. Facing this blade, it was even easier. He used his fists to easily shatter the attack. Li Zongjiu blocked the opponent's blade chi with one hand. How is this possible? The two of them saw that Li Zongjiu was actually able to block their attacks so easily. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. The latter had just broken through to the second stage of the celestial realm. How could he have such strong power? What kind of cultivation method did the latter cultivate to have such strong power? It was really shocking. You've all made your moves. Now it's my turn. Li Zongjiu said calmly. He was the evil lord. It was fine if he didn't provoke you. But you actually dared to provoke him. As the evil lord, how could he let you go? No matter what your nickname was, where you came from, or who was protecting you, he would still kill you. He would not let you live an easy life. In the next moment, a sharp sword appeared in Li Zongjiu's hand. Unparalleled sword. At the same time, a green ghost sword appeared beside him. He attacked with both swords. The green ghost sword was formed by the Spirit Division Unpredictable Hoop. Immediately, a terrifying power shot towards the Tsangming blade. Boom! A domineering power surged out. The Sea Tyrant blade was stunned. Why did he attack me first? However, since the attack was already coming, he could only face it head-on. Ao Tian did the same. With a loud boom, he unleashed a terrifying poison array. Then the power of the poison array spread out and covered the surroundings. After all, Li Zongjiu had a body that was immune to all poisons. It could be said that there was no threat at all. The poison gas could not affect Li Zongjiu. Moreover, Ao Tian could control the poison gas to a certain extent. He deliberately avoided Li Zongjiu and rushed toward the rest of the people, accurately covering their situation. At the very least, it could affect them to a certain extent. In a short time, these people were not afraid of the poison gas. However, they had to take Li Zongjiu's attack seriously. After all, when Li Zongjiu attacked, it could be said that his power was very strong. It was so fierce that it gave people the feeling that he was not an ordinary Stage 2 celestial being. Slash! He exchanged over 100 blows with the Sea Tyrant blade. However, Li Zongjiu suddenly sped up and found an opening in one of the moves. At the same time, he cut off the Sea Tyrant blade's hand. Moreover, it was the hand that was holding the blade. The Sea Tyrant blade immediately felt a buzzing sound in his head. Li Zongjiu kicked the Sea Tyrant blade's body. At the same time, the green ghost sword whizzed out. It accurately pierced the Sea Tyrant blade's back and nailed him to the ground. The Sea Tyrant blade spat out a mouthful of blood. No matter what, he could not pull out the green ghost sword from his back. Seeing this, Boundless Ghostly Hand did not hesitate to unleash all of the martial arts that he had learned in his life. The ghostly hand seals that filled the sky merged into one palm. It slammed towards Li Zhongjie. Heaven. Divine Fist. Li Zhongjie punched out. Boundless Ghostly Hand's move was easily broken. At the same time, Boundless Ghostly Hand's hands seemed to have felt a terrifying crushing force, which directly broke his hands. Bang! Boundless Ghostly Hand's hands exploded. Is that all you can do? Li Zhongjie said calmly. The strength of these people was not enough for Li Zhongjie. You. Boundless Ghostly Hands wanted to say something, but in the next moment, Li Zhongjie also summoned a terrifying heavenly thunder force and blasted it accurately on Boundless Ghostly Hand's body. Boom! Boundless Ghostly Hand's entire body was charred black by the explosion. He then laid on the ground, unconscious. At this moment, Li Zhongjie turned to look at Pei Feng. I've given you so much time. Have you finished setting up your formation? Chapter 16, 77. In the battle just now, Li Zhongjie had only tried a little. At the same time, he knew that Pei Feng was nervously setting up the formation. Li Zhongjie did not know what level Pei Feng's formation had reached. However, at this moment, Li Zhongjie still had some confidence in his own strength. Since you want to die, I'll let you display all your skills before you die slowly. Li Zhongjie was very generous. I'll give you a chance. However, at this moment, Pei Feng was fully prepared. The formation in his hands had been completed. Although these two pieces of trash did not buy him much time, his own strength was strong enough. He finally finished setting up the formation. You're very confident. Pei Feng said calmly. Looking at the person in front of him, he already had the feeling of trampling Li Zhongjie under his feet. If you don't start the formation, I'll make my move. As Li Zhongjie spoke, he waved the unparalleled sword in his hand. A force of ice and fire instantly swept towards Pei Feng. In his opinion, the person in front of him was too weak to stand up to the wind. If not for his curiosity about Pei Feng's formation cultivation and the fact that he had just broken through, he would have wanted to test his own strength. Otherwise, he would not have given Pei Feng a chance. Of course, even now, Li Zhongjie would not let Pei Feng live. Seeing Li Zhongjie make his move, Pei Feng immediately sneered. Suddenly there was a boom. It seemed that a force had drilled up from the ground and shattered Li Zhongjie's sword chi. Since you can't wait, I'll send you to heaven. Pei Feng shouted angrily. Suddenly, a terrifying force blasted towards the sky, around the underground. It was as if many things were continuously crawling out from the ground. Ghost formation. A hint of madness flashed across Pei Feng's eyes. This kind of array formation was very incompatible with his temperament, so he rarely used this kind of array formation. However, this kind of array formation was very useful. It was powerful, but it was easy to use. Often, it could produce a very obvious effect when killing or trapping an enemy. It can't be. Is that all you've got? Li Zhongjie's face revealed an extremely disappointed expression. Li Zhongjie had thought that this young array master would have some kind of formidable ability, which was why he was so popular in the Scarlet Soul capital city. But now, it seemed that the latter standard had indeed disappointed Li Zhongjie. Ao Tian had already hidden to the side. These Yin Ghost Chi seemed very powerful and mighty, as if it could easily trap and kill many people. However, in reality, this thing was completely useless in front of a true expert. For example, in front of Li Zhongjie. Li Zhongjie had seen too many similar things. Also, didn't this guy know that these moves of his were all used to restrain these evil Yin Ghost Chi? You're about to die, and you still dare to talk nonsense. Let's see how you can laugh later. Pei Feng waved his hand. Some of the evil ghost power within the area of 100 miles in circumference also drilled out of the ground. After they appeared, They all gathered their strength and rushed in the direction of Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio waved his hand. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning fell from the sky. Boom! The lightning covered the Yin ghosts in front of him. The power of thunder and fire that accompanied it easily burned all of it away. At this moment, Pei Feng's array formation was also greatly weakened. In just an instant, Pei Feng's array formation had already weakened to the extreme. Li Zongjio waved his hand. The green ghost sword appeared in front of him. At this moment, Pei Feng's face was in a state of extreme shock. Suddenly, a loud boom was heard. The green ghost sword was so fast that it directly tore through the space. In an instant, it appeared in front of Pei Feng. Before Pei Feng could react, this terrifying force had already continuously blasted into his body. Boom! 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 A defensive shield appeared and protected Pei Feng. This was the latter's amulet. Because Li Zongjio's attack was so fast that this move was enough to end Pei Feng's life, this amulet appeared on its own. Before Pei Feng could react, it had already protected him. At this moment, Pei Feng was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. If it weren't for the amulet in his hand, he would have been killed by this sword. The point was that Li Zongjio actually dared to kill him. You dared to kill me. Pei Feng looked at Li Zongjio in front of him in disbelief. Fortunately, he had the amulet, and the power of this amulet was enough to protect Pei Feng from death for a period of time. Li Zongjio could tell that this amulet was of good quality. Immediately, he withdrew the green ghost sword. Your tortoise shell is not bad, Li Zongjio mocked. Very well, I'll remember you. I'll return today's humiliation tenfold in the future. Pei Feng remembered the words of the elders in his sect. Once this amulet was triggered, it meant that Pei Feng had died once. Therefore, no matter what the situation was, he had to escape immediately. His opponent had the ability and the determination to kill him. Otherwise, the amulet would not be triggered. If he continued to act tough at this moment, no one would be able to save him. With the power of this amulet, it would not be difficult for him to escape as far as possible. After Pei Feng finished speaking, he turned around and leaped out. Trying to leave? That's too easy for you. Li Zongjio sneered. If he could come and go as he pleased, where would he put the face of the great evil lord? Did the evil lord Li Zongjio not care about his face? Li Zongjio immediately chased after him. The purple heaven thunderbolt and the sword chi of the unparalleled sword vibrated. They bombarded the amulet indiscriminately. Although this amulet was powerful, its power was limited. As long as the energy within the amulet was completely exhausted, the amulet would definitely be scrapped. Obviously, the person who made Pei Feng's amulet was very powerful. Li Zongjio guessed that he was at least a 7th grade celestial being. It could hold on for so long. Last time, Li Zongjio was able to take down the serpent demon because he took a great risk. Pei Feng was sweating profusely at this moment because Li Zongjio was chasing him relentlessly. The power of the amulet in his hand was almost exhausted. Li Zongjio, do you know who I am? My father is Elder F.A. Zheng of the Immortal Spirit Valley. If you kill me, the entire Immortal Spirit Valley will not let you off. Following Pei Feng's furious roar, Li Zongjio once again summoned a bolt of lightning. With a loud bang, it shattered Pei Feng's protective talisman. Chapter 1678. Li Zongjio destroyed his opponent's amulet. Pei Feng's face instantly turned ugly. This was because Li Zongjio was relentless in his pursuit. Moreover, Li Zongjio really had the power to destroy the amulet, which put him in danger. At this moment, there was nothing for Pei Feng to hide. He was completely exposed to Li Zongjio. He couldn't defeat him and he couldn't escape. His only way out was in Li Zongjio's hands. Your father is an elder of the Immortal Spirit Valley. Is there such a relationship between the Immortal Spirit Valley and the Sky Spirit Valley? Li Zongjio asked. There was a mission to join the Sky Spirit Valley. No wonder it sounded familiar. One of the 3 great immortal valleys. If you kill me, the entire Immortal Spirit Valley won't let you go. The Immortal Spirit Valley won't allow their disciples to die outside. Once they find out, they will investigate to the end. I can give Lingyu to you. How about it? Let's forget about it. The 2 people just now don't have a deep relationship with me. Their lives have nothing to do with me. The latter seemed to have calmed down gradually and found a way to negotiate with Li Zhongjiu. He wanted to appease Li Zhongjiu and save his life first. Li Zhongjiu could guarantee with his life that the first thing this kid would do when he returned to the Immortal Spirit Valley was to ask his father, the Elder, to kill him. He would even mobilize all the forces in the Immortal Spirit Valley to kill Li Zhongjiu. But there was no hurry to expose him. Are you serious? You're really willing to give Lingyu to me and let bygones be bygones? Li Zhongjiu didn't have any interest in Lingyu, but this little one seemed to like her very much. Moreover, this little one also believed that Li Zhongjiu was interested in Lingyu, which was why he was so close to her. That's right. Let bygones be bygones. From now on, I won't interfere with your matters. I, Pei Feng, swear to the heavens. Pei Feng hurriedly said. He didn't expect Li Zhongjiu to be so easily fooled. Pei Feng was very glad to meet such an enemy. It seemed that the latter was indeed afraid of the Immortal Spirit Valley's reputation and power. After all, not many people dared to be enemies with the Immortal Spirit Valley. Even the Red Soul City Master didn't dare to be enemies with the Immortal Spirit Valley. Although the City Lord of Crimson Soul City was almost invincible in his city, there was no one who could defeat him. He still didn't dare to be enemies with the Immortal Spirit Valley. He didn't dare to offend them. Otherwise, the experts of the Immortal Spirit Valley would have ways to kill the Crimson Soul City Lord. To Pei Feng, as long as he could survive, anything was fine. Li Zhongjiu's battle prowess was simply too terrifying. How did this guy have such a powerful battle? When the time comes, if I want to go far away, won't I need a lot of traveling expenses? Thought. Li Zhongjiu, his meaning was obvious. Pei Feng understood immediately. At the same time, he laughed coldly in his heart. You still want to extort money at a time like this? Since you want it so much, I'll just give it to you. I'll let you eat until you're full. When he returned, he would use all his power to kill Li Zhongjiu. Otherwise, what else could he do? He had to kill him. Otherwise, it would be hard to swallow. Travel expenses? I only have 120,000 soul beans. It's enough for your journey. Take these soul beans and be on your way. Once he killed Li Zhongjiu, he would have a way to get these things back. There was no rush. No. Give me your storage ring, and I'll let you go. How do I know how many soul beans you have in there? Are you trying to trick me? You know how powerful the Immortal Spirit Valley Elder is. I might have to hide for hundreds or thousands of years, right? Li Zhongjiu tried his best to persuade him. Don't worry. As long as you give me your storage ring and promise to let bygones be bygones, I won't touch a single strand of your hair. Li Zhongjiu said with sincerity, although he knew that people were greedy. However, Pei Feng was quite surprised that Li Zhongjiu was so greedy. Li Zhongjiu actually wanted to take away all of his storage rings. There were so many treasures in there that Pei Feng couldn't bear to part with. If you don't even have this much sincerity, how can I believe that you'll let bygones be bygones? Li Zhongjiu's face suddenly turned cold. He snorted coldly. It was as if he was about to see through Pei Feng's scheme. Pei Feng's heart skipped a beat. Pei Feng thought that it wasn't easy for him to appease Li Zhongjiu. If it was ruined because of such a small matter, wouldn't that be extremely unlucky? Therefore, he had to appease Li Zhongjiu first. Okay, to show my sincerity, this is my storage ring. Pei Feng took off his storage ring and threw it to Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu caught the item and scanned it with his mental power. He counted the items in the storage ring. The most eye-catching item was soul beans. There were actually 120,000 of them. This guy was really rich. He was mainly a formation master. Usually, formation masters earn money faster. After all, they were experts in this field. Setting up a formation would cost at least 5,000 to 10,000 soul beans. As long as a formation master was willing to help, there would be business. However, most people were more aloof and unwilling to help. They would even have to spend a lot of money. Therefore, it was reasonable to be able to get so many soul beans. Very good. Now you can go on your way with peace of mind. After Li Zongjio received the storage ring, he immediately raised his hand. A bolt of divine lightning descended from the sky. Under Pei Feng's astonished gaze, it struck towards Pei Feng. You didn't keep your word. Only then did Pei Feng realize that Li Zongjio was just toying with him. However, by the time he realized it, it was already too late. Even if his intestines turned green with regret, it was useless. Boom! A bolt of lightning swallowed Pei Feng. What a joke! Do I look like a trustworthy person? Of course. A strand of Pei Feng's hair floated in the air. Look at this strand of hair. I didn't touch it. I said I wouldn't touch a strand of your hair. So I definitely won't touch it. As for Pei Feng himself, he turned into a soul bean. Li Zongjio kept it. Then Li Zongjio flew over. After a while, he flew back. After thinking about it, he still felt that it wasn't safe. In the end, he burned the strand of hair as well. If this guy's elders really found some kind of trace from his hair, wouldn't it be asking for trouble for Li Zongjio? After dealing with this strand of hair, Li Zongjio arrived at the waterfall. Chapter 1679. When they returned to the waterfall, Ao Tian was keeping watch over the arrogant, boundless, ghostly hands and the Tsangming blade. They were in a very sorry state at the moment. The two of them were lying on the ground. Boundless, ghostly hands was fine as he was only unconscious. However, the Tsangming blade was nailed to the ground by the green ghost sword. He couldn't move. Moreover, his powerful strength prevented him from dying for the time being. The repeated pain caused the Tsangming blade to feel unbearable pain. The intense pain was simply unbearable. In his current state, he would rather Li Zongjio come forward and strike his head with his sword, ending his life completely. Li Zongjio immediately understood the pain the person in front of him was in, because he was the one who arranged it. How about it? Hand over your storage ring, and I'll give you a quick death. Li Zongjio said calmly. It sounded very benevolent. Being able to give him a quick death was enough for them to feel a great favor. They even had to be deeply grateful to Li Zongjio. The Tsangming blade opened his eyes and tried his best to look at Li Zongjio. At the same time, he tried his best to nod. Li Zongjio waved his hand and retrieved the green ghost sword. Only then did the Tsangming blade heave a sigh of relief. The strength in his body was gradually recovering. I'm willing to submit to you. Master, please let me live. The Tsangming blade said with all his might after he recovered some strength. He looked at Li Zongjio with eyes full of sincerity. Oh, you Sky Realm cultivators cherish your lives so much? Li Zongjio was very surprised as he looked at the Tsangming blade in front of him. Although the latter's hand had been cut off by him, it was very easy to reattach it with the strength of a Sky Realm cultivator. There wasn't much of a problem. The most important thing now was to escape from Li Zongjio's hands. In other words, it was to preserve their lives. Only by doing so could they survive and have a better future. If they died here, they would have nothing left. Master, please spare my life. The Azure Sea saber had recovered quite a bit of its strength. Originally, the Blue Sea blade had wanted to rely on its own strength to give it a try. However, they knew in their hearts that if they really rushed forward, there would be no turning back. There would no longer be any chance to save their lives. It was difficult to survive. In front of Li Zongjio's powerful strength, any strategy would be futile. At the same time, Li Zongjio was chasing after Pei Feng. Pei Feng had returned in such a short time. Needless to say, Pei Feng must have been killed by Li Zhongjiu. For someone who even dared to touch Pei Feng, why would he care about the others? Li Zhongjiu thought for a moment. All right, although your strength isn't that great, it's enough to deal with ordinary fellows. Li Zhongjiu nodded and said. The Azure Sea Blade also obediently released its soul. Li Zhongjiu had ruthlessly carved a mark on it. From then on, the Songming Blade's every move was under Li Zhongjiu's control. If he wanted to take someone's life, he didn't need to do anything else. Just a thought was enough to easily reap that person's life. Obviously, after reaching the Sky Realm, ordinary people would cherish their lives more and wouldn't waste it casually. They would cherish the chance to live very much. Go and heal yourself. Keep the storage ring for yourself. I've suffered a great loss. Li Zhongjiu waved his hand and said. He asked the latter to leave first and looked at the other boundless ghost hand at the same time. He had subdued the Azure Sea Blade. However, he didn't know if the boundless ghost hand in front of him was willing to submit. Immediately, Li Zhongjiu woke the latter up. When the boundless ghost hand woke up, he was also in a state of extreme shock. He seemed to still be immersed in the fear and terror from before. Boundless ghost hand immediately came to his senses. Boundless ghostly hand also seemed to have an enemy who had fainted during the fight. That was why he appeared here. Boundless ghostly hand also woke up. At the same time, he looked at Li Zhongjiu in front of him vigilantly. You're sleeping quite soundly. Li Zhongjiu smiled faintly. After about 15 minutes, under Li Zhongjiu's coercion, the warrior in front of him finally handed over his soul. Although he was very strong in the beginning, after Li Zhongjiu cut off his limbs, he became much more obedient and stopped running. After that, he more or less admitted his mistake. He was directly forgiven by the generous Li Zhongjiu. Look, why did you have to reattach your limbs? Li Zhongjiu was also speechless by Boundless Ghost Hand's behavior. But Boundless Ghost Hand did not dare to say anything. The two of them recovered together for a while. Although they saved their lives, they lost their freedom from then on. When the two of them felt that they had reached the end of their lives, they would die at that time. As for now, they were absolutely unwilling to die. After the two of them recovered from their injuries, Li Zhongjiu directly asked them to wait for him in the Crimson Soul City. He directly added the two of them to the Qin Gang. Suddenly, there were two more Sky Realm experts in the Qin Gang. Their strength naturally increased greatly. If they wanted to deal with the Heavenly Fiend Alliance, it would be much easier. After all, there was such an opportunity, so Li Zhongjiu did not give up and kept the two of them. The two sisters, Ling Shui and Ling Yu, did not seem to know what was happening outside. They did not even know that one of their suitors was killed by Li Zhongjiu. It was good that they did not know. If they knew, there would be more trouble. Li Zhongjiu also cultivated on the spot, increasing his strength and stabilizing his realm. At the same time, he could also protect the two girls. Finally, 3 days later, a lightning tribulation appeared in the sky. Who was it between the two of them? Li Zhongjiu lowered his head to take a look. He saw a beautiful figure from the bottom of the pool, breaking the water surface with a whoosh and landing on the ground. After taking a look at Li Zhongjiu, she did not say much, but directly sat down facing the lightning tribulation in the sky. It was Ling Yu's sister, Ling Shui. It seemed that Ling Shui's dark force cultivation was stronger than Ling Yu's. She looked young, but in fact, Ling Shui's strength had also reached the sky realm. The lightning tribulation in the sky, after gathering its strength, suddenly fell towards Ling Shui. Ling Shui used her own origin power to resist. Obviously, the lightning tribulation was very powerful for the latter. Third stage sky realm. Ling Shui's strength was about to break through the third stage sky realm. At the same time, the lightning tribulation was unprecedentedly strong. Chapter 1680. Several bolts of lightning struck down continuously. Ling Shui could clearly feel the pressure as well. She released many treasures in succession. The moment these treasures came into contact with the lightning, they all collapsed and shattered instantly. Hence, at this very moment, Ling Shui was at her wit's end. However, when she raised her head, she saw that the clouds in the sky did not seem to disperse. Ling Shui could only resist the following lightning tribulation with her origin power. Although Ling Shui had just broken through, she fully displayed her strength as a level 3 celestial being. At this moment, the power of frost that was condensed finally resisted the terrifying power of the lightning tribulation. Boom! When the two forces collided, it instantly produced a heaven-shaking, earth-shattering sound. However, Li Zongjio could clearly see that Ling Shui's condition was already very bad. Previously, it did not matter if some of her treasures were damaged. At most, she would suffer a little impact. Hence, she could basically resist it. But now he was truly going against the heavenly lightning. Very few ordinary people could have a strong body like Li Zongjio's. They could easily resist the attack of the lightning tribulation that fell from the sky. Hence, this lightning tribulation was nothing to Li Zongjio. However, to ordinary cultivators, the lightning tribulation was simply an existence that could take one's life. Anyone who saw the lightning tribulation would feel a sense of despair. Ling Shui was not surprised. Originally, Ling Shui did not expect that there would be such an opportunity to condense her own origin power and achieve a breakthrough in one fell swoop. This was something that Ling Shui did not expect. Otherwise, Ling Shui would not have come in such a hurry. Moreover, she did not make sufficient preparations for the breakthrough. This made Ling Shui very regretful. If she had known this would happen, she would have brought some things with her. She prepared in advance. However, the preparation for the breakthrough last time could be said to have hollowed out her entire person. Therefore, Ling Shui hadn't even recovered from the loss of her wallet yet. She needed to completely prepare her own strength. Moreover, she also needed a certain amount of time to continue the lightning tribulation. This time to Ling Shui, it was indeed a little too fast and too early. When the lightning struck earlier, Ling Shui had not recovered much. Suddenly, she vomited another mouthful of blood. Now, another bolt of lightning came crashing down. Boom! That terrifying power of lightning instantly covered Ling Shui. Bang! This time, Ling Shui's essence energy was scattered. If this continued, Ling Shui's soul would be destroyed by another bolt of lightning. Li Zongjio could already see the fear in Ling Shui's eyes. She probably wouldn't be able to get past this. Ling Shui casually tossed her storage ring in the direction of Li Zongjio. "Take good care of my sister." Ling Shui looked at Li Zongjio. She didn't know if Li Zongjio was reliable or not. Although from her previous understanding, Li Zongjio was a very reliable person. However, they had no other choice now. She could only choose to believe in Li Zongjio. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to send these things to her sister. Li Zongjio took the storage ring. Immediately, a ray of light flashed across his eyes. He felt a little calm in his heart. However, he shook his head helplessly. Why did I have to be involved in this matter? If Ling Shui hadn't tossed the storage ring to Li Zongjio and had continued to hold on by herself, Li Zongjio wouldn't have done anything to her. If she wasn't strong enough, she might end up crippling herself. Who could be blamed for this? However, now that she had given the storage ring to Li Zongjio, it was equivalent to letting Li Zongjio take advantage of her. She had received the latter's favor. Ling Shui closed her eyes. She no longer had the strength to block the next bolt of lightning. Therefore, she could only concentrate the last bit of strength on her body to protect herself. She wouldn't be killed so miserably in an instant. Boom! Lightning surged. The sky within a radius of 10,000 miles flashed with extremely terrifying lightning and fell directly toward Ling Shui. It even gave Ling Shui a feeling that this wasn't the last one. How could her thunder tribulation be so powerful? Or, for Ling Shui, the time she took to break through to the third level of the celestial realm was too short, so it led to such a thing happening. It was originally a good thing, but it became a bad thing. The separation from her sister came too suddenly. She didn't even have a word to say. They had been sisters for hundreds of years. Even if she didn't say anything, she believed that her sister could understand her feelings. However, the pain she imagined didn't come. Could it be that she was turned into ashes in an instant? Ling Shui thought in her heart. However, the sound of thunder and lightning kept coming from the surroundings also made her very awake. She wasn't dead yet. She was still alive. The moment Ling Shui opened her eyes, she immediately saw the scene in front of her. Then they saw a figure standing against the extremely terrifying lightning. He used his body to block the divine lightning released by the all heavens. He forcibly took it. Seeing this, Ling Shui actually felt extremely absent-minded. When she saw Li Zongjiu, Ling Shui didn't know what to think in her heart. Just looking at him, she felt that the person in front of her gave her a very great sense of security. It seemed that he had resisted the disaster of her entire world. He had lifted all the pressure on her. She had this kind of feeling. So, she was extremely touched in her heart. This kind of feeling. Why did he do this? Ling Shui didn't understand. This was simply an act of suicide. You take care of your sister. I don't have time. Li Zongjiu resisted the lightning in the sky and returned the storage ring in his hand to the ladder. At the same time, he turned around and glared at the sky in front of him. It's just a thunder tribulation. Although your strength is strong, it's still a little weak if you want to imitate the heavenly tribulation. Li Zongjiu said coldly. At this moment, in the great world they were in, it was the evolution of the power mastered by a mighty figure. It could be said that every blade of grass and every tree here was the energy of this great emperor. So he was everywhere, but there was no trace of him. In Li Zongjiu's view, the power of the heavenly tribulation was naturally the evolution of this great emperor's own power. He didn't take it seriously. Resisting the thunder tribulation for others would at least increase the power by more than 10 times. So, this was basically an act of suicide. Immediately, Li Zongjiu also clearly felt that the other party's power had increased. Chapter 1681. No matter how strong it was only an illusion. Li Zongjiu had experienced countless lightning tribulations, so when he saw the lightning, he could feel the powerful will within it. It was the will of the Xiantian emperor. He wanted to use his own will to transform the lightning tribulations. Li Zongjiu was not afraid at all. At this moment, he activated the chaotic body. A thunderbolt that was 10 times stronger than the previous one struck down, as if it was going to tear Li Zongjiu into pieces. The terrifying power instantly poured into Li Zongjiu's body. Even with the chaotic body, Li Zongjiu felt extremely pressured. In an instant, he even felt like his body was about to explode. The meridians in his body seemed to be about to explode. Roar! Suddenly, in the intense pain, Li Zongjiu seemed to realize that the power did not come from the will of the emperor. Could it be that the heavens were targeting Li Zongjiu? Below, when Ling Shui saw Li Zongjiu, she could not help but feel an intense pain. Such peak strength had already exceeded the limits of what Li Zongjiu's body could endure. It should be known that helping others to overcome the tribulations was a great taboo in the cultivation world. Under such circumstances, it was very likely that both of them would be destroyed. However, if Li Zongjiu had not intervened, Ling Shui would have died. Her soul would be destroyed, and her cultivation would vanish. But now, because of Li Zongjiu's intervention, her life was saved. This move has already surpassed the strength of a level 6 celestial being. Ling Shui's eyes were filled with worry. It was very likely that Li Zongjiu would be completely obliterated by this thunderbolt. Li Zongjiu was actually willing to sacrifice himself for her. Ling Shui was extremely touched. Although there were many men in Ling Shui's life who said that they were willing to give up everything for her, in reality, once a dangerous situation occurred, they would not even be seen. Even now, it could be said that Ling Shui was not very familiar with Li Zongjiu. In fact, they had not even spoken much to each other. However, Li Zongjiu was still willing to do it. Ling Shui did not know how to describe how moved she was by such a person and such an action. Li Zongjiu was about to be torn apart. Ling Shui was ready to follow Li Zongjiu, but in the next moment, Ling Shui saw something. Li Zongjiu's body, which was gradually shattering, was actually gradually recovering at this moment. He was breaking and recovering. At the same time, he continued to refine that power. He turned it into his own power to repair his body. In this process, his power gradually became equal. The speed of destruction and rebirth was equal, and at the same time, it was happening to Li Zongjiu's body. Such a mysterious scene made Ling Shui look on in awe. But at the same time, Ling Shui could also feel how much pain the situation would bring to Li Zongjiu's body. She did not dare to imagine. The body that had just been reborn was once again shattered by the lightning. The body that had just been shattered was once again reformed under his own power. This process repeated for more than 30 times. Li Zongjiu's body finally calmed down. At this moment, Li Zongjiu was reborn. It was not enough to describe it. The heavenly virtual divine form actually has such a mysterious effect. This was also the first time Li Zongjiu realized it. It turned out that the so-called heavenly void divine form was a formless and formless state. Only through continuous destruction and rebirth could one condense a true divine body. At least, this was what Li Zongjiu had comprehended so far. Li Zongjiu was also very surprised. If it were not for this crisis, Li Zongjiu would not have been able to comprehend the essence of the heavenly virtual divine form. This time, it was a blessing in disguise. After this destruction and rebirth, Li Zongjiu's own power had increased a lot again. Although his cultivation of origin energy remained the same, Li Zongjiu could still feel it. His power had increased a lot again. This made Li Zongjiu extremely amazed. It seemed that the word limit was actually an infinite range. What was the limit of the body? No one knew. There was always a higher mountain. Now, Li Zongjiu could even beat up the previous two with just the strength of his body. Even if he stood still and let them attack him at will, he could still remain unscathed. In such a short time, he had made such a big breakthrough again. This made Li Zongjiu very surprised. Oh my God, what kind of monster is he? Ling Shui saw the change in Li Zongjiu. Immediately, her eyes widened, and her beautiful eyes were full of disbelief. She did not expect Li Zongjiu to really make it through. Such a terrifying power, and such a strong and terrifying recovery power, which saved Li Zongjiu's life. No one had ever been able to withstand the thunder tribulation for others unscathed. As for Li Zongjiu, it seemed that he wasn't just helping others withstand the lightning tribulation and being safe and sound. In fact, he was actually benefiting from it. No one would have expected such a good thing to happen. But in fact, if it were someone else, it would be quite a tragedy. At least, Ling Shui's life was saved again, although he could clearly feel it. The constantly surging thunderbolts seemed to have become more powerful and angry, but the power after that could not bring much harm to Li Zongjiu. He had absorbed all the power of the thunder tribulation. Only Li Zongjiu had such power. The thunder tribulation clouds finally dispersed reluctantly. Li Zongjiu seemed to have recovered to his peak state, and he landed in front of Ling Shui easily. It seems that the power of this fake heavenly tribulation is just SOZO, Li Zongjiu said indifferently. Of course, he was qualified to say such words, because he had survived the destructive thunder tribulation. Although it was a little difficult in the beginning, it was very easy in the end. Fake heavenly tribulation? What do you mean? Ling Shui looked at Li Zongjiu in surprise. Isn't everything in this macro world transformed by the power of the Xiantian Emperor? Li Zongjiu said, "How is that possible?" Although the mysterious Sky Emperor Lord is extremely powerful, it's impossible for him to create a heavenly tribulation. Even this great world wasn't completely created by the mysterious Sky Emperor Lord. It's just that the mysterious Sky Emperor Lord modified it based on a certain foundation. Ling Shui and Ling Yu's background was not simple, so they more or less knew something that Li Zhongjie did not know. Is that so? Chapter 1682. Li Zhongjie was a little surprised, but he did not show it. Ling Shui was extremely weak. If it were not for Li Zhongjie's help, she would have been killed by the Thunder Tribulation. But now the Thunder Tribulation was over. She only needed to recuperate a little and recover her strength. Then she would be able to enter the level 3 celestial being realm as she wished. Although he did not know how long Ling Shui had cultivated to reach her current level, at least judging from her bone structure, Ling Shui's cultivation speed must be very fast. Her talent was also quite strong. I didn't expect that I, the evil lord, would have to protect these girls. Li Zhongjie could not help but shake his head. Of course, Li Zhongjie also gained a lot from the Thunder Tribulation just now. Li Zhongjie had just broken through to the level 2 celestial being realm. However, under the tribulation earlier, his chaotic body had become even more powerful. The level 2 celestial being realm had been completely stabilized. Otherwise, it would take at least a few months just to stabilize the celestial being realm. This was also why one could not come out of seclusion immediately after the cultivation breakthrough. If something happened accidentally, it was very likely that the level 2 celestial being realm would fall immediately. Li Zhongjie was very lucky that his level 2 celestial being realm did not fall under the Thunder Tribulation just now. Unexpectedly, he took the opportunity to stabilize his level. This time, the two of them did not know that Pei Feng was killed. Ling Shui and Ling Yu also broke through smoothly. Ling Shui's strength finally stabilized. After this, Ling Shui also had a sense of trust for Li Zhongjie. Even after thinking about it, she felt a little unbelievable that Li Zhongjie was in such a situation, bearing the heavenly tribulation 10 times stronger. He stepped forward bravely to resist the power of the heavenly tribulation for her. It seems that sister has a good eye. Thinking of this, Ling Shui could not help but feel a little disappointed. She did not think much of Li Zhongjie at first. After all, in her eyes, the requirements were very high. Li Zhongjie's strength was not enough to enter her eyes. As for his sister, it was entirely because of Li Zhongjie's cultivation and formations that she was interested in him. Who would have thought that Li Zhongjie was actually such a wolf in sheep's clothing? Her Thunder Tribulation, the power of that wave of Thunder Tribulation just now, could easily destroy the existence of the 6th stage celestial realm. However, Li Zhongjie was able to block her attack even though his cultivation was weaker than hers. It was obvious that Li Zhongjie's strength was far above hers, not to mention anything else. Even the giant snake in his hand, which was a 9th-class celestial being, was caught by Li Zhongjie. Naturally, he would not dare to underestimate Li Zhongjie in the future. 3 days later, Ling Shui and Ling Yu woke up one after another. The two sisters appeared under the waterfall. She was like a lotus flower emerging from the water. Li Zhongjie opened his eyes and looked up at the sky. With his current strength, it was enough to kill the incarnation of the Lord of Heaven. However, he could not go back now. He knew that there were so many experts in this world. Li Zhongjie could either find a way to break through to an extremely terrifying level in 5 years. Even if he did not need to be in the macro world, he could still cultivate as usual. Otherwise, he would have to find a way to return to the macro world and continue to improve his strength. Otherwise, sooner or later, other enemies would come. This time there was still a chance. Li Zhongjie had 5 years to prepare. However, there might not be such a chance next time. Li Zhongjie's peak in his previous life was only the peak of the supremacy realm. Now he had easily broken through. If he wanted to kill his previous self, it could be said that it would be easy. Moreover, Li Zongjiu saw a terrifying existence of the ape clan in the sacred martial realm. Even with Li Zongjiu's current strength, he did not necessarily have enough strength to fight against the latter. That ape clan expert must be in the Lord of Heaven realm. Li Zongjiu thought to himself. At least, before he went back, his strength had to be in the Lord of Heaven realm. At the same time, in order to prevent the seal from breaking in advance, Li Zongjiu also had to be prepared to go back in advance. He had to return in 4.5 years at most. He did not want to find that the other party had broken the seal in advance when he returned. Then the entire holy martial continent would be burned to the ground. If he saw such a scene, Li Zongjiu did not have the ability to go back and do it again. Therefore, he had to prepare for a rainy day. He had to improve his strength as soon as possible. Are you all ready? It's not good to stay here for long. Let's go back quickly. Li Zongjiu said. Ling Shui and Ling Yu nodded. Thank you, young Masterly, for protecting us. Li Zongjiu waved his hand. On the way, Ling Shui was also hesitating whether to tell them about Li Zongjiu blocking the heavenly thunder for her. However, she was afraid that her sister would misunderstand, so she simply thought that if Li Zongjiu did not mention this matter, she would bury it in her heart. She only treated Li Zongjiu as a good brother. If there was a chance in the future, she would directly return this favor to Li Zongjiu. Whoosh! Whoosh! The three of them rushed in the direction of the Crimson Soul City. Halfway through, when they came to a forest, they suddenly saw a 7-colored light in the sky. The light seemed to have torn a hole in the sky, and from that hole, a door of light shone into the forest in front of them. When the three of them saw this scene, Li Zongjiu frowned at first. After all, in this great world, strange phenomena were frequent, and he could not tell what kind of danger was coming. However, looking at the expressions of the two girls, they were very surprised. It's the rainbow sky illusion. Ling Yu's eyes were filled with surprise, and so was Ling Shui, who was very excited. What? Li Zongjiu had not been here for long, so he was not clear about many rules of the great world. Now that he heard this name, it was quite unfamiliar. The rainbow sky illusion. There are countless adventures in it, and the challenges in it are not too life-threatening. For the great world, it's equivalent to a good opportunity to obtain rewards, and there might even be secret incantations in it. Secret incantations. What Li Zongjiu needed the most now should be the secret incantations. After all, the Heaven Void God record was enough to allow Li Zongjiu to cultivate to a higher level. However, this secret incantations could allow Li Zongjiu to still have an advantage in front of high-level experts. Quick, the rainbow sky illusion will not appear for long. I didn't expect to have such a good opportunity to encounter it. The two girls hurriedly called Li Zongjiu to go. Basically, as long as one entered the rainbow sky illusion, they would be able to obtain a lot of benefits, which was equivalent to a place to obtain benefits. However, such a treasure land could only be encountered by chance. It was rumored that the Crimson Soul City Lord had once entered the rainbow sky illusion, which was why he had an undefeated record. Chapter 1683. The Appearance of the Rainbow Sky Illusion. Immediately, the experts who were training or living in seclusion within a radius of 1,000 miles appeared one after another. At the same time, there were also many newcomers who had just arrived who could not help but rush towards the rainbow sky illusion. If some newcomers accidentally entered the rainbow sky fantasy realm, they would directly obtain a great opportunity. But this kind of thing to him was both good and bad. After all, if one did not have enough strength to grasp a good thing, they would eventually draw fire to themselves. Crimson Soul City. City Lord Crimson Soul naturally saw the appearance of the one rainbow sky illusion. It's the rainbow sky illusion again, a great opportunity. City Lord Crimson Soul was already too late to set off. Furthermore, as the city lord, he had to protect the city. Otherwise, if anything unexpected happened to the city, he as the city lord would be guilty. Since he had become the city lord and enjoyed some convenience and treatment, he naturally had to shoulder the responsibility. However, Crimson Soul had controlled the main city for so long, and the accumulation of strength had long reached a terrifying level. However, he was still unable to step into the heavenly Lord realm. This made Crimson Soul want to increase his strength even more. It was extremely difficult to step into the heavenly Lord realm, and when you controlled a main city, the success rate would increase a little. At least compared to before, it would not be so uncertain. Seeing the rainbow sky illusion unfold, there were also many figures in the main city who were rushing towards the rainbow sky illusion at an extremely fast speed. But most people could not make it in time. After all, such a paradise would not wait for anyone. In just a dozen breaths of time, the light had already dimmed. Li Zhongjie and Ling Yu were the first to enter the rainbow sky illusion through the door. Poison Dragon Ao Tian also hurriedly followed. Of course, Ao Tian would not let go of such a good opportunity. After asking for Li Zhongjie's permission, he hurriedly followed. However, Li Zhongjie did not wait for him, but let him fly himself. After all, Ao Tian had already stepped into the heaven realm. His speed was naturally not slow. The two girls knew about Li Zhongjie's poison dragon. Previously, when they were in the Crimson Soul City, it had more or less appeared. Being able to own a celestial realm mount was, in fact, very eye-catching. Ling Shui found Li Zhongjie more and more amazing. If he remembered correctly, Li Zhongjie had just broken through to the celestial being realm not long ago. However, he had long possessed this poison dragon. This meant that Li Zhongjie had already subdued Ao Tian when he was still in the Khanate realm. How miraculous was this? On Ao Tian's back, Li Zhongjie and the other two were flying in the air. At this moment, they appeared on a spiritual island. The blue seawater in the distance rippled. Everyone knew that since it was an island, treasures and the like would definitely be on the island and would not appear in the seawater. There are indeed many auras of treasures on the spiritual island below. Moreover, the spiritual energy on the spiritual island is so dense. Li Zhongjie was also surprised. If one were to say that the spiritual qi of the sacred martial realm was 100 times denser than that of the sacred martial continent, then the spiritual qi of the sacred martial realm was 100 times denser. The spiritual energy in the great world was 100 times denser than in the sacred martial world. The spiritual energy on the spiritual island in the Rainbow Sky Fantasy Land was 100 times denser than in the great world. It was 10,000 times denser than in the sacred martial world. Even if one used a spirit gathering array to continuously accumulate the spiritual energy, it might not have such an effect. They did not even need to meditate and cultivate. They only needed to open their mouths and breathe. They would absorb the spiritual energy into their bodies and automatically convert it into origin energy. Let's go where the spiritual energy is the densest. Ling Yu pointed in a direction. As soon as they arrived at such a place, there was strong spiritual energy surging everywhere. All kinds of treasures appeared in piles. It was indeed not easy to find the densest spiritual energy among so many of them. Ling Yu calmed down and analyzed and captured the spiritual energy. Swoosh! Without another word, Ao Tian charged towards the place with the densest spiritual energy. However, on the other side, 3 figures were also chasing in the same direction. Speed up! Li Zhongjie said plainly as he looked at the 3 people opposite him. How could he, Li Zhongjie, be snatched away from him? Without another word, he charged towards those people. I've taken a liking to this item. Get lost! Li Zhongjie shouted as he circulated his origin energy. The other party could feel Li Zhongjie's strength. However, they thought that they might be able to contend with him and stand a chance. Such a treasure was definitely in existence that could change one's fate. How could they let it go so easily? Ling Shui looked at Li Zhongjie. The latter was gentle and refined. She did not expect him to have such a domineering side. He would ask people to get lost when he took a liking to something. It was rare to see such a character like the latter. However, the three people opposite him seemed to want to take a risk and fight for it. The two of you hold on for at most 10 breaths of time. After I take the item away, I'll split it with you. Wealth comes from danger. Let's do it. The two of them were ruthless people. They decided to take a risk and try to stop Li Zongjio. That way, they would be able to obtain more opportunities, although Li Zongjio looked very fierce. However, under the temptation of such a treasure, not everyone could remain calm and think. Once one fell into a demon's trap, they would be stubborn. Li Zongjio saw through the other party's actions and sneered, "Courting death." In the next moment, Li Zongjio flew out from Ao Tian's body. Boom! A small black hammer appeared in his hand. The hammer immediately burst out with terrifying chaotic lightning power. The combination of lightning and chaotic power, a move blasted towards the two of them. Although the two of them were in the celestial realm, under Li Zongjio's chaotic lightning, their bodies were instantly swallowed by the light. Boom! Boom! The two of them were swallowed by the lightning. They originally wanted to block for 10 breaths of time. However, they did not expect that they could not even hold on for half a second. Damn it! The only person alive wanted to fight for the treasure. He was about to reach the treasure, but Li Zongjio was too strong. If he continued to fight for the treasure, he would definitely be caught by Li Zongjio. Finally, the latter gritted his teeth and turned in another direction. It was more important to stay alive. Since he was already here, why should he make things difficult for this god of death? He thought that if he turned around and left, Li Zongjio would let him go. However, he did not expect that Li Zongjio would catch up with him and smash the latter's body with the power of lightning. Since they had already planned to snatch Li Zongjio's things, they should be prepared to be smashed into pieces by Li Zongjio. The powerful lightning instantly reaped the lives of the 3 celestial realm powerhouses. Ling Shui and Ling Yu looked at each other. There was only one thought in their minds. This man was too overbearing.